The following podcast contains spoilers, adult language, and holy shit, what the hell is that?
This is a message from the Office of Emergency Preparedness. Due to the recent crisis, we ask that you remain in your homes. Do not attempt to communicate or interact with the creatures, even if they are people you know.
Lock your doors. Bar your windows. Evil is coming. It's time for Aim for the Head, a horror apocalypse entertainment podcast. And now, here are your hosts, Diana and Steve.
Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Aim for the Head podcast. I'm Diana.
And I'm Steve.
And this week we are back to discuss episode 4 of season 2 of Fallout. Title of this episode is The Demon in the Snow, which, I don't know, it evoked something in me. I was like, demon in the snow. And then right in the first scene, I was like, oh, yeah, I see. It's snowing and
there it is.
Demon right there. I get it. Well, on the surface, if you didn't know that creature existed, what would you think was going to happen? And also, I literally going into this episode, I was like, snow. Is this going to be a scene that's going to show like nuclear fallout snow falling down? I literally had no idea what to expect. So
I was thinking it was going to all be about cocaine, but that's me.
Yeah, I mean, that's possible. All right. So before we get into individual points for the episode, we do like to do our quick thoughts on what we thought, what we saw, really quick sort of blow by blow. And Steve, you went first for last week's episode. So it's my turn to go first. So my quick thoughts on Demon in the Snow. The Demon in the Snow was scary. Full stop. What did you think of the episode?
Wow, that was it, huh? That's all you get?
Yeah, that's all I get.
Okay.
No, I'm so sorry. It was funny. We were just talking before we started recording about how other than like a quick any kind of check-in with Hank and where he's at, we pretty much hit every storyline, including a flashback. So there was a lot of information and a lot of moments sort of smushed up in this episode. They really covered a lot. It was packed in there. And I loved, what we'd love to start calling the Downward Spiral Lucy episode. Because, she's got a problem now, a buffer problem. And, and obviously she enjoys the shotgun and the, shooting the ghouls. She did a good job aiming for the head for all of them.
I see what
I did there?
I do.
Yeah. So, yeah, all around great episode. There were some moments, some tense moments between, Steph and, Norm had a little Mexican standoff happening there. There was some tense moments. There was some absolutely genuinely funny moments, great lines in this episode, really great plot movement, and I'm very interested to see where this goes next week. How about you? What were your thoughts on Demon in the Snow? I almost said Devil in the Snow.
It could be either way. It works.
Either way. They both have horns. That's for sure.
They do. They're both monstery.
They are monstery.
I agree that first of all, this episode was 49 minutes long, and that's not crazy. You have to build in there that like almost 2 minutes of that 49 minutes is the previously section. Right.
Oh, God.
So literally the episode when the episode actually starts, it's like 47 minutes, which is not very long at all. And man, it just shoots right by, I mean, when you're watching it, it's almost like you just start it and then it's over, and I think that's just like you said, because there are multiple segments of all the storylines, but they're short, and the show will run 5-6 minutes in one of the stories and then jump to the next one, and then it just pulls you right in, and before you know it, oh, hey, guess what, it's over. And you're like, wait, no, I need to keep going, and again, like you said, it had some really funny parts to it. some great dialogue. There was some wonderful sight, humor there. I mean, obviously Thaddeus trying to impersonate Xander as he's walking into stuff and can't figure out how to get out the door, and
I loved what he was like muttering to himself,
yeah,
and he was like totally supposed to be here.
my name's Xander, yeah, and then all that stuff, and so he was funny, and obviously the Lucy storyline with the buff out was funny, and her, how the ghoul was just kind of enjoying the whole thing, and so but then also the opening scene in the Alaskan front, the flashback scene where we see Coop in the war, and then obviously the end, very intense, where you're like, oh, they're in trouble, and so yeah, I thought this episode, it did a really good job of kind of touching on all of the stories. Again, we're like as close to Vegas as we've gotten yet, people. I mean, they're like
They're
right there
on the precipice.
Yeah, you know what I mean? It's like they're like, if they just go like 10 more feet, they're in Vegas, and you could argue that they actually do when they walk in at the end and find all of the chicken eggs, as Lucy puts it. They're in New Vegas, like they've already made it. But I mean, in any case, they're like right there, and so that was good to see. And then also the stuff with the Brotherhood is accelerated, so we've seen, not just, we don't really know what's going to happen with the Commonwealth, but I mean, clearly the Civil War has started just amongst those factions, right? And so yeah, I thought this episode was a lot of fun, and it definitely pushed the story forward a little bit. And yeah, I think it's it was a good kind of a middle episode, for the halfway point. So
right, agreed, absolutely agreed. So before we get into our individual points, of which we both have many, we first usually like to discuss the episode description and then the writer and director. So clear some space on your schedule. I mean, we have a lot of talking points, but the episode description itself is pretty extensive. So
it is.
There's that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Steve, why don't you go ahead and get started on that, since it's going to take you so long.
All right. So this once again is we're talking about the Amazon Prime series Fallout. This is season 2, episode 4, The Demon or Devil, either way, in the Snow. And the episode description, yet once again, people, we have an actual line of dialogue that has been also doubling as our episode description. And I want to know, do you think that the actor that gets to say the episode, do you think they get like some kind of a salary bump for that line? Because it is a double. It's not just a line of dialogue. It's also the episode description. If I was an actor on this show, I would be like talking to my agent like, hey, whoa. I need to get a little bit more cake for this. You know what I'm saying?
Probably possible,
yeah.
Yes.
So anyway, our episode description that we have is rock to spear and so on. And if that doesn't tell you all you need to know, I mean, I don't know what to tell you.
Then there's something wrong with you and you didn't watch this episode.
Exactly. Absolutely. Yeah, and so that's our description, and it doesn't really let you know what Lucy's going through, but whatever, it's all good. They know what they're doing. Yeah. They're a big multi-billion-dollar company, so yeah, we'll give them the benefit of the doubt. Moving on. Our writer and director for this week is a new team, just like it was last week. So that's kind of cool that we're seeing some different folks now are coming in. And we'll start with our writer. Our writer is a gal named Jane Espenson. And she has a goodly, I would say, amount of writing credits. She also has several producer credits that I thought were kind of interesting. She was a producer on Buffy the Vampire Slayer back in the day, which is kind of cool. She was a producer on a show that was on called Husbands. I don't know if you remember that show. I do not, but it was from the early aughts. As far as her writing credits go, she has written for shows like Foundation and Jessica Jones and Battlestar Galactica. She wrote an episode of Gilmore Girls back in the day. She wrote an episode of one of my favorite shows, Firefly, which it was episode 1.6. It was entitled Shindig, and it's an episode where Mal gets into a duel with this guy, and they land on this planet, and they go to this, like, it's almost like a southern kind of a culture they have there, where they have the plantations, and everyone goes, "Well, hello, sir," and they have that sort of southern honor kind of thing, and he gets in
Right.
there and offends the wrong guy, and so the guy challenges him to a duel, and so on, and it's a wonderful show because it's the episode where Kaylee buys the cake dress. If you're fans of the Firefly, you know which episode I'm talking about. It's the one that she refers to Mal as Captain Tight Pants, and so on. It's a great episode. So she wrote that, and I thought this might interest you in that apparently there is a show that's been quite successful that's run for years and years on HBO, and I know there's no dice in it, but it is called the Game of Thrones. And she wrote one episode of that in season 1. It was episode 1.6, and the title of it is A Golden Crown. And I have no idea what it's about, who's in it, what happens, because I don't watch that friggin' show. But anyway, for all you compulsive types that like Game of Thrones, she wrote that one. So there you go. She wrote 1.6, A Golden Crown. So you can look it up if you're not familiar with the title, if that doesn't tell you which one it was. So our director, and again, this is really cool that I think a lot of connective tissue, because I am sure we have talked about our director in other podcasts on other shows, and it's a gentleman named Stephen Williams, and he is a longtime director, has tons of credits that go back into the 1990s. He has also moved into becoming producers of shows. He was a producer on the show Watchmen, which I think you watched.
Ooh, I sure
he
did.
he was a producer on a show I know you watched. It was a little show called Lost.
Oh yeah.
He was an executive producer on a show from a few years ago called Saint X, which is important to me because it starred my future Australian ex-wife, Alicia Debnam Carey, which we all remember as Alicia from Fear the Walking Dead.
Mm-hmm.
He directed episode 2.5 of the last season of The Last of Us. And the title of that episode was called "Feel Her Love," which, if you remember, dealt with the prophet woman that we kept seeing the graffiti and stuff in Seattle. That everyone would be walking down the street and there'd be this big mural and it would have a picture of this kind of woman, dark hair, and it would say "Feel Her Love" and all that stuff. I don't know if you remember that one, but she did that. He directed episodes of Westworld, of Ray Donovan, The Americans, Person of Interest. He directed 26 episodes of Lost
Wow.
over 5 seasons. So he did a lot of Lost. And then this one just blew me away. And I know we've talked about this in the past. He directed one episode of a little show that I like to call The Walking Dead. And the episode he directed in particular is season 6, episode number 4. And if you're trying to figure out when that would be the episode that happens right after Glenn dumpster dives. That's right, people. He directed the Cheesemaker episode, Here's Not Here.
Mm.
So, so,
Wow.
so yeah, talk about just bizarre coinkydinks for us, crossing over
Oh
and a
yeah,
lot of
totally.
things that we enjoy and like and have watched. But that is your writer and your director, Jane Espenson and Stephen Williams. And again, both of them are pros. They've got a ton of creds, and I think both of them, they you know what? It was well chosen by the showrunners here because both of them I thought did really good. The episode was well written, and I think that it was really well put together in the way it was shot and the
Mm-hmm.
way it was edited. So I ain't
Agreed.
got no complaints.
Yeah, me neither. Me neither. I mean, starting right off the bat with a really, I don't know, plot heavy, like moving the story. I mean, it's strange that a flashback would move the story forward, but this, just a couple minutes peek into, we've heard Coop talk at length a bunch of different times, and even just in the previous episode during the speech where he talked about, how Coop saved his life and all this other stuff. It was just,
Yeah.
We've had all these anecdotes about Coop being in the military, and now we got a sneak peek into it. And it was really, really interesting, it's funny how, like, the previously on, it showed him talking to Bud about, I wore that 2.5 and all of the defects that was responsible for the lives of a lot of men and women and da-da-da-da. And there you see him in the armor, and it's malfunctioning. Like, as soon as we see him, he's in the armor and it's sparking. Like, there's a problem with the, whatever. And then Charlie shows up and his is malfunctioning even more. And,
oh, yeah.
So this opening is, we get like a smash, like, the, what's it called? The title card sort of like smash in there where it tells us where they are. And they've used this convention already this season, and previously, and just says the Alaskan Front. So this is them in battle, battling, as we've been told throughout these seasons, I'm using air quotes here, the Reds. So communists.
Not from Cincinnati.
No. So some type of communist regime, and in the Alaska Front, as you guys know, as Sarah Palin taught you, she can see Russia outside her window. So obviously Alaska does get very close to Russia. So I think all this time where he talked about Alaska and the Reds and whatever, I just assumed that they were going to be battling, Russians whenever they would show something. Yeah, exactly. And that's not what it was at all. It was, armies from China, which also a communist country. And also, while not directly connected to Alaska, if they got some kind of permission to come through, Russia, they could have done exactly that. So anyway, so we get this great scene where, a bunch of stuff is going on. Their armor is malfunctioning. He tries to get permission to leave. They say denied. But then when Charlie asks, he lies and he says, no, they said we should bug out, but you go first. I'll be right behind you. Charlie has this cute line where he's like, you better be right behind me, because if you freeze, Barb's
gonna have my ass. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So cute little, it keeps it sort of light, but then as soon as he's out of camera shot, you can see, there's a vertibird in the distance that's on fire. So obviously, this is where some type of battling has been happening. And then out of nowhere, there's some gunfire, and he starts taking on some fire, and it damages his armor even further. What was your sense when the soldiers shot on Coop? I'm wondering. I was thinking about it. Do you think that they were aiming for like spots that they knew were vulnerable on the armor? Did you get that sense?
You mean like how Coop disabled Max's suit back in season 1? When he
little bit.
It's like, oh, there's like this one little thing right here, and he snaps it, and then Max goes flying out of control. I didn't really get that sense. I just got the sense they were just shooting.
I couldn't tell, because like they did a good job of, like, I mean, he was already sparking kind of from the elbow, but it felt like they were. It felt to me like they were aiming for like the joint areas where it's probably less solid because of the the
less protection and stuff.
Exactly.
The only reason I would say no is that he had his visor up, and I thought it was hilarious that both of them had to like manually like pull up their visors. Like the suits were that crappy that they didn't automatically lift up like Max's does,
Right.
And if they were like aiming for vulnerable spots, why weren't they aiming for his face? Because that's the way
true.
you
His
kill
visor
him.
was up, yeah.
Yeah, but they very well could have, and it could just be too that they saw, maybe they were aiming at the arm because they saw it sparking, it could be that too, because they're like,
True.
oh, there's a malfunction there. Let's try and make it worse or something.
True.
Yeah, I mean, they're shooting like machine gun bursts, so it's not like they're aiming, really precisely. They're just kind of pointing and shooting. So, but I love that they're all, they've got like the furry, hat with the communist China symbol,
Yes.
on it and
Yes.
stuff, and all these kind of images that we have of what what the communist forces were like in the 1950s,
Right.
I
Right.
thought that was kind of cool. Although they were armed with like AK-47s, so I don't know if they. I think in real life they had them, but I don't think that the Chinese had them. I think the Chinese had just regular rifles and stuff. But still, it was a very cool little moment. And I mean, let's be honest, they had him. I mean, Coop was dead to rights.
Oh, absolutely.
Because like you said, like his armor malfunctions even more, and he literally like falls over. Kind of like R2-D2 when the Jawas shoot him, and he's just like
Yeah.
shut down and he can't
Hmm.
move. He's just, and he all, his visor's open so he can like look, but that's it, And
It's like he's a prisoner of his own armor
yeah,
in that
yeah,
moment.
yeah, oh yeah, he is totally stuck. And they come up and then she kind of starts like talking, and we're getting the translation, and she's telling her buddies, her fellow soldiers, like, look, they stuck him in this tin can, and when just like our generals are eventually going to put in us, and when our generals come and say it's our turn, we're going to say the same thing that this guy did. And then I know you wrote it down.
Oh yeah. Okie dokie.
Okie
But I love
dokie.
she did such a good job with there was a little bit of a question mark in the way she said it, only because she was speaking full Chinese and there was no English in her, so at least that she was showing. So she said it like okie dokie, like
Yeah.
almost like I think I'm saying this right.
Right. I learned this off of propaganda, so I don't know if it's correct. Yeah. And of course, the whole time she's doing this speech, and clearly she has never seen The Incredibles, because she is totally monologuing. And you just, you don't do that. That is just the number one way to get zapped. And while she's doing that, and Coop is kind of staring at her, he looks and over her shoulder in the background.
You're like, what could possibly be coming up behind her?
Oh my goodness. Yeah, this like massive like dinosaur like thing is like slowly like coming up behind her. Oh man, and then it growls, and then you get that great kind of trope moment, right, when someone has something, the monster or the killer comes up behind someone, and they suddenly get that sense of, oh, I think something's behind me, and then they all kind of
I have the spidey sense that something's there.
yeah, and then they all kind of slowly turn around, and then you hear the growl, and then whack whack whack, and there's blood on the snow, and these people are just like literally like torn to shreds. I mean,
yeah.
This thing just rips through these three soldiers that are heavily armed, it just without even blinking, and then moves in on Coop, and it's kind of like, ooh, I gotta unwrap this one, you know what I mean? It's like I gotta crack out this hard shell to get to the soft inside,
Yeah,
and
it's like he's like canned spam right now. Do
right.
I really want to undo the can to get to the meat on the inside?
Yeah. And all Coop can do is just kind of like squint his eyes closed, because he can't, like we said, he cannot move at all,
It was interesting too, because I thought the way they decided to film it, with him laying on his side, he's totally prone, he's getting spoken to by this soldier, and you only get like a glimpse in the background of the creature, and what you get is like a silhouette, and it's so far away, but it's also sort of bathed behind it with like fire, as it you only get to see a shadow shape of it because it's lit from behind by the fire, so you can't see its details or its face, and you only get like little hints of the details when it like is on the ground and like up by Coop's face. It seems to me like I got the sense that he like sniffed him a little bit too, like,
oh yeah,
and like you were saying, he was looking at it like you know, I've got all this fresh meat sitting around me now, all these Chinese soldiers I've killed. Is it worthwhile to cut into this can to get to the spam? So he's assessing in that moment.
Well,
But
Hoop was lucky because that thing had probably just eaten Chinese and didn't want to, do it again, right? And
right,
said,
exactly.
I want to get some American food, maybe a burger, Yeah, and of course for game nerds like me, it's a death claw. Which
that's what my question was, because I saw it referred to that online, and I was like, this has to be a game thing that you guys know about.
Yep.
So clearly it's a creature that you encounter in the game for sure. Yes.
Yes, absolutely, and they are like the worst monsters to encounter in the game. They're super hard to kill, and yeah, they're really cool. And in terms of the show, if you remember at the end of last season when Hank was had left, took the power armor and had fled. One of the very last shots of season 1 we got was him, and he's walking in the desert, and it's bright day sunlight, and he's kind of just working his way through, and he walks past this skull of some large animal, and it has the curved like horns, and I pointed out then, I'm like, oh my God, that was the skull of a death claw, and you're just like, what's a death claw?
Yeah,
because you didn't know, obviously.
What do you speak of?
Yeah, right, and I'm like, oh my God, they're these awesome monsters, and so I was all geeking out about it, and so here we get it paid off, which makes sense that he would find the skull there, because as we know at the end of this episode, the death claws have obviously gone on vacation to Vegas and are there, crashing, probably staying at Kaiser's Palace.
Right.
But so I thought this was a really cool way to bring them into the game and just show how ferocious they are and how it takes a lot to stop them, and you really got that sense. I mean, Coop in that moment, I mean, he's like signing off. He's like, yep, this is it. I'm not gonna make it back, and oh, look at that.
Tell my wife I love her.
Yeah, right. And it's like, if I do get out of this, I'm gonna have to change my armor because I just wet it. I mean, it's just, I mean, he is pretty much just like resigned, like, yep, this is it, this is where I'm gonna cash it in. And the only thing that saves him is like that somebody shoots in behind the death claw, like, and I don't know if it's shooting at it or just shooting in general, but the noise draws it away.
Right.
And and it turns around and goes, ooh, there's like, maybe there's non spam food later over there, and just leaves him, but you're right, it gets right up in his face, and you can see it, and it's like smelling him, and you get its nostrils flaring, and you see its eyeball, and and I mean, Coop's just like, holy crap. What I think though is really important, because clearly this has made an impression on Coop of how awful and terrifying these things are.
Oh yeah, and it's great too, because I feel like even though it got all the way up in its face, up in his face, we only see like little details. We got that silhouette, so we know the shape of it, so we know the horns and the whatever. And that it's big, because
it's big,
you just saw the vertibird, you know how big those are, and this is in conjunction with, like, it's right next to the vertibird, so you can sort of figure out size, shape by that. And then it gets closer, so we see that it's got, like, it shows close-ups of, like, its eye, and like the fact that its eye and part of its face is looking down on him, and you see a little bit of his tail or part of his body. You understand that it's like something that's scaly, but it has intelligence because it's looking at him and assessing and all that. But you don't get a lot of, like, your only idea of the scope of what it is and what it looks like is a faraway shot. You don't really know until that final scene of the episode, when it comes out the door and sort of and when it stands full and tall and breaks the top of the bricks above it. And so I loved that the episode was bookended with the images of the death claw, because you got, like, this is like Coop's worst nightmare come alive, and then 200 years later he is faced with the same thing again. And I know we'll probably talk more about it when we get there, but do you have the sense that it's been 200 years since he's seen a death claw? Has he tried to avoid them all this time, or is this his first time being face to face with one since then? What do you think?
That's a good question. I mean, they are in the New Vegas game. So
Okay.
the people that have made, created the world, created the universe, have indicated that the death claws are have gotten to that part of the United States. And and
Gotcha.
don't get me wrong, they're in the Commonwealth too, in Fallout 4 that takes place over
Okay.
in Massachusetts there as well. So they're kind of everywhere. So I think it's possible that he could have run into them, but I think what the latter part of what you said is that that experience has really kind of influenced his judgment on death claws, and that is if they are around, he is not. You know,
Right.
so
Right.
so yes, and maybe not though. Maybe he has been where he's gone on the West Coast there in Los Angeles and Nevada and that kind of area. Maybe he hasn't run into them before, until
Maybe.
then. It's hard to say. I mean, the last scene when they after they shoot up the Elvis schools and they kind of make their way like into New Vegas or as close to New Vegas as you can get, whatever. And, he starts realizing that all the robots have been destroyed and that, something's wrong, right? He keeps saying that something's not right. And then they find
Mm-hmm.
the eggs or the
Right.
remains of the eggs, the shells. And of course, drugged out Lucy is like, ooh, chickens, what kind of chickens would lay these eggs,
Bark, bark, bark.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then he goes, those aren't chickens, you know what I mean? It's like so he clearly like sees those and goes, uh-oh, you
So
know.
he's got some experience with seeing, if not them, then at least evidence of them in other places,
Yeah.
and knows evidence of them in order to avoid. So when she says like, "Oh, eggs," and he's like, "Oh God,
Right.
no,"
Right.
and it all sort of pieces everything together with the whole like, there's no people out, the robots have all been smashed and everything. So it sort of, you can see him making all of the connections in his head, like, "Oh shit,
Yes.
this is what has happened to Vegas
Right.
since I was last here."
Right. So yeah, but it's a real interesting question. I'm not, I think it would be cool if he like really hasn't had a lot of experience since that one, and it's like that one has just kind of haunted him to the point of like, I never want to see one of those again. You know,
Which, do you blame him?
No, not at all. And I was
Yeah.
going to ask you, when the Alaska scene with the Death Claw, I was just having deja vu with Jurassic Park.
Okay.
When the T-Rex is, coming after the kids in the car and is sticking its
Mm,
face up to the bubble on the car, right? Because the car is like the touring car, and it's breathing, and you see its eyeball. I mean, I thought they were clearly kind of tapping into that Jurassic Park thing, and the way it walks, because it's very T-Rex ish.
hmm
The death claw and the way that it looks. I mean, it's kind of like a T-Rex with horns is I think a good
Right.
description of physically what it looks like, but it's also super intelligent. It's not just the brain the size of a walnut. It's actually, kind of smart and can you do things that you wouldn't normally associate with what you would normally just say is an animal, right? Um,
Right.
but I definitely got that. I'm wondering, did that rub off on you at all, where you're like, ooh, it's kind of like that scene.
I didn't, when I was watching it, no. Like in hindsight, with you pointing it out now, I can see that, especially with the like lean down and look at you with my side eye, because I can't look at you full on. I
Right?
have to look at you from the side, and it does. I didn't think of it, but it does have like elements of that for sure.
Okay, cool,
Yes.
cool, cool, cool.
Yeah. One thing I did want to point out too is like sort of the way the last images we get of this scene. Well, first of all, there's two things. Um, right after, we hear like you were saying, there's like some gunfire in the distance. It distracts the Deathclaw, so it
Yes.
runs off
Mm-hmm.
to do whatever, whether it's run and hide, fight some more soldiers, find some meat, whatever. Go make some more, like, really big chicken eggs, whatever
Yes.
is its plan. But as soon as it runs away, the other stuff we hear on the radio, again, because we can hear Coop's radio conversation, and he hears them call out, and they're like, the enemy is retreating. We know why. Enemy is retreating. There have been casualties, da 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 da. So clearly the Deathclaw has killed a bunch, but also he's running towards, and they are retreating because of the creature. And they're like, enemy is retreating. We've taken control of the island. We caused the enemy to retreat, or however he worded it, the commander. And Coop is like, we didn't do that. It wasn't us. It was something else. So it's interesting because it takes Coop's stories and memories of the war and puts them in contrast, because, and I know Coop has always said, I fought in the war. I've done this and whatever. And it was in this last episode where he was sort of portrayed as like a hero of this battle or whatever. And now side of it, and he's always seemed uncomfortable with the idea of being called a hero or helping people, whatever. He's been very sort of self-effacing about that. And now you get the reason why is because, he basically just survived. He didn't do anything. You could argue the thing he did to save Charlie was he told Charlie to get out of there. So Charlie survived because he told him to get out of there. But he didn't do anything heroic. He just told his friend to get out of there because he knew that it wasn't going to go well and blah, blah, blah. And he'd take the heat for it, blah, blah, blah. But it wasn't like he shot up a bunch of the enemy and saved them. They think that he did because he was like the only one left, but that's not how it was. So I thought that was interesting that we get this sort of other angle to it, and he immediately right off the bat is just saying, we didn't do anything. It wasn't us. It was this other thing that sort of saved the day, this creature saved our lives kind of, which is awkward. You don't want that. You don't want to be beholden to the Deathclaw is what I'm saying. Like, you don't want to be able to, you don't want to owe him one.
You don't want him to show up and turn in that marker at a later date. Yeah.
He'd be like, dude, remember Alaska? Yeah. What are you going to do for me?
Here it is. You know what? I need you to pick up my sister at the airport. And he'll be like, no! Yeah.
Yeah, so I thought that was interesting that you get that sort of other side of the story there. And then as the scene is ending, we sort of get this shot from above of, Coop is like, we didn't do anything. And it's kind of his stance is very like, he's very emotional and kind of pathetic. And he's very vulnerable because he's still in the suit that he can't move. And there's this shot from above that sort of pans out, and shows, the whole scene, around him, sort of like it stretches out as it goes up the camera, and you see him sort of splayed out on the ground, but he's still like, we didn't do it. It was something else. Something else. And then it goes away. And you get the Fallout title card, which we'll talk about in a second. But then the very next scene picks up where we left off at the bottling company where Xander was killed. And it's the exact same shot from above, showing the armor splayed out on the floor. Just, in this case, this one died.
Yeah. Well, and this one has a super sludge in his head with the engine still firing there a little bit. Yeah, you're right.
A little bit. Yeah. So yeah, I thought that design-wise, I thought that was a super cool choice to have that shown, title card, and then the exact same sort of layout, but with, completely opposite circumstances and, clearly jumping forward the 200 years. But, So the title card.
Yeah.
Frozen. And we're not talking about Elsa here or Olaf or whatever those people are.
Yeah,
But
no animated characters here at all. No.
no,
Um,
no.
but you do
What do
you
you think of the title card?
I thought again it was really great, and it has kind of like you kind of intimated already. It has double meanings because we
Mm,
see first of all we have Coop and he's in Alaska and it's cold and snowy there, and it might even be flurries might even have been falling when that scene ends and he's sitting there on the ground going it wasn't us, it was something else. Then we cut to the Fallout logo and it's clearly like ice and frozen, and then it starts to crack and bits of it kind of blow away, and that could be ice, could be nuclear winter, could be both. I mean there's a lot of meanings you can assign
right.
to what we're seeing there, be it beyond the obvious of, well, Coop was just out in the snow and the cold, and now here we are, just kind of following it up. But yeah, I thought it was really fun and a cool way to transition. And then you're right that then, it kind of fades out. The Fallout kind of like it cracks a little,
Yeah,
the whole
it
title
does. Yeah.
card. And then literally it's like a smash cut to that shot from above of Xander, lying there in almost the same position that we saw Coop, on the
Right.
floor of the bottling plant, and yeah, and then it's like, okay, now we're back to present day, and here we go.
Right. Yeah. I liked it too, and we've talked many times about how they changing up the title card to match either what the theme, or just matching what the theme of one scene is. And clearly, I mean, the title of the episode is the demon in the snow, and we opened the whole show in Alaska, so the motif of it being frozen and then cracking was just really, really well done to sort of set you up for the rest of the episode. Plus, I mean, the cracking itself, I mean, there's a lot of cracks that happen in the rest of the episode, between, you know, um, Maximus at the Brotherhood, etc. There's, sort of cracks in the system that are being shown. So lots of different layers with the
Oh, you
title
you
card,
you know it.
for
Yep.
sure.
Yep.
But we get the opening scene, which you got a couple of moments listed in there. Uh, Opening scene of directly after Max, not Max. I'm so sorry. Directly after Max has put the super sledge into Xander's head,
Yes.
and it's just the very immediate moments right after, and yeah, and
Yeah,
then fun ensues.
yeah. I mean, basically, he's just he's killed Xander, and then he kind of has his little talk with Thaddeus, where it's like, Thaddeus is like, so what have you been up to? And he's like, I think I just started a civil war. And Thaddeus is like, well, I'm the manager here, so we both got a lot going on. It's like literally right after that moment is when it comes back, and Max is sort of like, well, shit, what are we gonna do here? This is bad.
Yeah.
And Thaddeus is like, well, it's really nice seeing you. You should probably get going now, because I got to get back to work. And then I think you
Yeah.
hear the vertibirds coming outside,
Yep.
and
Yep.
Max is like, they must attract us, and so he's like, well, then you should go. And Max kind of points out that, like, look, you're gonna have to, I need your help here, because this guy is like the representative of the Commonwealth, and if they know he's dead, it's gonna be really bad. And Thaddeus is like, no, what are you talking? The Brotherhood has a little thing against ghouls. I can't go there. And and Max kind of points out correctly, said, hey, if they come in here, they're gonna tear this place apart, and they're gonna kill half of these kids, and the other half, the human half, they're gonna recruit and take
Yeah.
back to be in the Brotherhood. So it's like. And
Yeah.
Thaddeus is like, yeah, you got a point there. That's true, and then Thaddeus is like, but you know what? That's fine. I'll just run. And he's like starting to like scoop the bottle caps into like these bags and stuff. He's like, I think you wrote this line down. And he's like, I'm really good at running away,
Great at running away.
Yeah, right. And then I wrote the next line where Max is sort of like, look, Thaddeus, sometimes running away is the best thing you can do. Sometimes it's not. And then
Yeah.
he kind of he kind of appeals to him of like, look, if you want to save these kids, you gotta come and help me. And so
Right.
Thaddeus kind of reluctantly goes, all right. And so Max gets out of his armor and lets Thaddeus get into it because obviously Xander's armor, the helmet has been smashed, so they can't use. I mean, they could wear the armor, but they couldn't use the helmet, and that wouldn't do any good because then they'd see it's not him, So
Correct.
so Max goes out and meets the vertibird, and there's a guy in power armor, and he's like, "Hey, Golden Boy, you're in deep trouble. Quintus is wondering where you went. And Max is like, "Yeah, our vertibird, like, it broke down." And the guy's like, "Yeah, whatever. And then he's like, "Where's Xander?" And then you see Xander, you see Thaddeus come up, and he's in the armor, and he like can't fit out the door.
It's hilarious. It's hilarious. He's so nervous that he's just like he does it like 3 times because comedy happens in threes. He's like trying to get out the door and it like hits his head. He's like, oh man, and then he like gets all ready. He's like, okay, oh here we go, and then he hits his head again, and like, oh man. I know, it's hilarious. But I wanted to say too about like the soldiers that came to get them.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, I love, like, we already know that they've been portrayed as kind of like not so smart in other scenes,
Dinguses,
where they're like,
yes.
Yeah, where they're like playing with the
the grenades.
The grenade. Yeah. And so they're not the smartest of people, right?
Mm-mm.
And I just love how the voice, like how, because when they're inside the suit and have the faceplate down, they totally have, like, their voice is changed. It's modulated.
It's modulated,
so,
yeah.
Yeah. So, you could have a regular speaking voice like this, but then when you're in there, it comes out like this, and you sound like you're a big tough man, which is crazy.
You should talk like that all the time.
Yeah, I totally should. But what's crazy is these dudes that are in the armor, they end up sounding so stupid because they're like, yeah, whatever, man. You're in big trouble and whatever. Oh my God. It's literally, they remind me of is, and it's funny that there's a character also named Chet, but it reminds me of Chet in Weird Science.
Oh, wow. Bill Paxton.
Who's just like, so great, where he's just like, whatever, you're in trouble, and you're at a party, and bull. Like, just very, like, absolute dude bro.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the only, I just keep picturing him, and I just have this, either that or the dudes from, like, Animal House that are in the, that are the jocks, and they just give off this whole energy, like this very stereotypical energy.
Yeah.
And I love in that moment, because you can even hear the change in emotion when he's like, basically he is so excited to tell Maximus that he's in trouble.
Yes.
He's like, you're in trouble, Golden Boy. But then when he's like, yeah, our vertibird, like, crashed, and he's like, whatever.
Yeah.
Because he was like, you ruined I was like all about, like, you're in trouble, man. I'm bringing you back, and you're in trouble, and someone's going to love me for bringing you back, but you're in trouble. Ha, ha, ha. But then he has, like, a valid excuse. He's like, yeah, our vertibird crashed. We couldn't come back. And he's like, whatever, man.
Oh yeah.
And, like, the disappointment in his voice, but still sounding kind of, like, dopey and bro-y.
Yep.
It's just chef's kiss. It's so well done. I love it.
And then when Thaddeus finally gets out of the door and he's walking up, he's like talking out loud, like left foot, right foot, left foot. I mean, you know what I mean? He's it's so fun. And it's just so great because it's like he's acting so not like how Xander was. Xander was super confident and charismatic and like obviously had years of experience in the power armor and knew how to walk in it, and as he'd dance in it, you know what I mean? He had that kind of experience. And then now it's like, here comes Xander, and he's like, I belong. I should totally be here. My name is Xander. Xander. And none of these guys are like, that's weird. They're all just like, whatever, let's just get in the vertibird and go back. Yeah,
well, that just shows how dim that they all are. That they just don't, it all seems normal to them. They're like, yeah, whatever.
Whatever. Yeah, it's got to be him. was the armor. Let's go. You know,
Yeah.
yeah. So,
Ooh.
so they get in and they fly. They start to fly back, and I think then we cut to Lucy and the ghoul. Right? Isn't that the next thing?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And we get this great scene, great sort of two-part scene where it's first it's Lucy waking up, and you're I wasn't sure. It was hard to tell. Like it was hard to tell at the end of last week's episode. You know that he did something good by having the two groups of Kaisers
The Legion.
fight each other. Yeah, the two groups of the Legion there, to have them fight each other, and it sort of would distract them from the rest of the New California Republic people. But I wasn't certain that he didn't also give up their location, because I was like, he didn't really think about the dynamite until he was already walking away. So I was like, what did he say? So I wasn't sure. And so to have the scene start with Lucy and Coop being there with those members of the NCR, it was really nice. It was really nice to know that, like, if he did tell them, he told the NCR people so that they could pack up their things and move on to someplace else so that they wouldn't die. But they're not moving super fast, so my instinct tells me that he told them some other location and then set off the dynamite, and it's all moot anyway.
Yeah.
But either way, I wasn't sure how it was going to play out, so seeing them right off the bat was really nice. And, she helps with bringing Lucy sort of back, because she had been, starved she was probably up on that cross for, like, what do you think, like a week or so?
No, not that long, but I mean, certainly like a day at least. But it doesn't matter. She was crucified. I mean, that's just, to be in.
But long enough, it doesn't look like they did anything other than deny her food and water.
Yeah, but in
so that would take like a couple of days to sort of kick in.
Yeah, but in that the whole point of it though is when you're in that position with your arms out like that, and you can't, it's not like she can't stand on it. Like there's nothing like her feet. Like there's not like a footrest for her to stand on. So when you're hanging like that, it makes it very difficult to breathe, and it puts extreme stress on the body just to get oxygen and have your lungs and chest. So, I mean that's the whole torture-y part of it. Well, I mean, it was bad, and you're right. She was out in the sun all day, and beating down on her, obviously not getting any food or water or anything. So she was clearly a little malnourished and exhausted, and probably had heat stroke and all these awful things that you would assume from that kind of exposure. So she was in a bad way. There's no doubt.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, like I said,
they had her.
Like I said,
Go ahead.
like I said last week, the one thing she got lucked out on is that they didn't actually get out the hammer and nails. They just tied her up there.
I know. Yeah, that's true. And it's good because she seems to only have like you were saying, she's got muscle. She's probably got maybe a bunch of pulled muscles from being in that position for too long. Plus muscle fatigue. So she probably got some torn muscles, torn ligaments, things like that. And so she's just sore, plus dehydrated, starved, all that other stuff. So the gal at the NCR hooks her up to an IV, and she's been given drugs for like a couple of days just to sort of bring her back. And Lucy is so thankful, because she's like, listen, we've met a lot of people on our way from Los Angeles, and there's a lot of people have not been nice, and so she's very clear. Yeah, she's very clear to explain, like, there are not a lot of nice people out there anymore, and you guys are nice. And she takes the compliment. She's like, thanks. That's our job, is we're supposed to bring, order and to the wasteland. We're supposed to make it better for others.
Yeah.
So it's this really nice little moment. And
what's
she even makes
great is,
go ahead.
I was gonna say what's great is that she does that, and there is that nice little moment, and then the other dude of the NCR goes, "Have you ever heard of this place called Shady Sands? That's where we're from." And it cuts to the ghoul, and he's just laughing. He's got this big
Yeah.
smile on his face, like, "Yeah, Lucy McLean, let's talk about that."
Yeah.
And
Yeah, Shady
so
Sands, are you familiar?
I've heard of it. Yes, I have. So
Yeah.
it's kind of got that little bit of wicked irony going through it, that these people are being extremely nice to basically the daughter of the dude that wiped out all of their people.
Right. Right. And she was already thankful, but then it's an uncomfortable thank you after it becomes clear who they are, where they came
Mm-hmm.
from, and they are you still there?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Hello.
I I hit my oh, that's what it is. I hit my plug, and sorry for that, folks. Uh, I hit my plug, and my light went off.
Oh no.
So, oh yes. So I mean, all my laptop is, I've got it's on the battery and everything. So even if the cord comes undone, I'd be fine. Sorry for that little interruption there, folks. Anyway, um, where where was I? So talking about Lucy and her realization that her dad did those terrible things, and so she's feeling uncomfortable in her gratitude as well. You can see her change, and she's like, "Well, we should probably be going." But the woman, she makes the pitch where she's like, "Well, you're always welcome to stay, if you want a change of pace or a change of partner." Because she's trying to, be nice about it, but like she knows the ghoul, and she knows that he's not the best. He's not like your pal,
Right.
basically.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So she's trying to make a nice little play there, but Lucy is like, yeah, I would, but we're looking for somebody, and there's this really great line where, and we already know that, like sort of the name Hank McLean is sort of like hanging in the ether, and you're just waiting for somebody to say it out loud. And the woman asks this really great question when they're saying, we're looking for someone, and she says, someone you care about or someone you hate. And Lucy's just sort of sitting in thought there, and Coop is like, "Oh, what a great question." And he is loving this moment.
Oh, he absolutely.
He's so tickled in this moment. And he's like, "Oh, what a great question. What say you, Miss McLean?" And and Lucy is fair and says, it's someone who hurt somebody. She does, which is kind of like a hedge, because it's her dad, and she does love him, but it's complicated because he did terrible things, and she kind of hates him now too. It's someone who did terrible things, and we want to bring him to justice is the plan. So she says like the nice thing, when you can tell, especially after finding out that these people are left after something her dad did, it like just weighs on her heart even more that he's done these terrible things. And she just wants to find him even more. Now these people did nice things for her, and her dad did terrible things to them. So it's like, so it's like this weird sort of survivor's guilt that she's sort of manifesting there. So it just is really, really great scene. But she just can't get out of there fast enough. She's like, "Okay, let's go," because she doesn't want these people to find out who her dad is. She's just like, "Let's go."
Yep. Yeah. No. Let's
Yeah.
just leave that one alone. Let's just head on out of here. Thanks so much. Yeah. Thank you.
Oh yeah. So the first part of that scene is sort of this, nice scene with the NCR, becomes uncomfortable and scary for Lucy. They leave, and of course there's humor because of, the ghoul, and then it shows them on the road, and then the scene between the ghoul and Lucy on the road is just fantastic for a couple of different reasons. Humor is one of them because of the drug thing, but also he's making a fair point. You included the line there where he starts calling her on how she's in the midst of feeling guilty, of course, but he says to her, why don't we talk about the quote you put in there?
Oh yeah, yeah. She's they're walking away, and she like says like they were really nice, and just sort of just kind of making conversation, and
Yeah, general.
and he's like, well, you think they'd be nice to you if they found out what your daddy did, which was what he was just tickled pink over went back into camp when the whole thing of like, oh, I'm looking for someone. Oh, is it someone you love or someone you hate? And he's just like, yeah, that's a very good question. So yeah.
Well, let's look into those feelings,
Right,
shall we?
right. And then I also like too back in the camp when they're like, well, what are you gonna do when you find him? And they cut to the ghoul when she says, oh, I'm gonna bring him to justice, and it cuts to him and he kind of has this sort of like eye roll almost, right, when like, yeah,
of course,
good luck with that, it's just like, I don't think I bring him to justice. If you mean shoot him, yes, that's what's going to happen.
I feel it's like an Inigo Montoya moment. I feel like every time she says justice, he's like, you keep saying this word. I do not think it means what you think it means. Or
yeah, right.
It does not mean what I think is going to happen to Hank when we see him.
Right, and unless you mean justice is me, and by justice you mean me shooting him. Yeah, it's but yeah, it is. It's very it brings out a little bit more of the humor of Coop. The ghoul Coop.
Yeah.
And I think too that sequence there, and this is before she starts getting all itchy and hot, so she hasn't started to come down yet from the buff out. I think this is like the first time I can remember where the two of them are together, and you kind of get a sense that they're not, like they actually kind of like each other, that it's not like I'm just here because I have to be here. It's more of like, no, we're in this together. And I'm not saying they're best buddies, and none, it's not that at all. I'm just saying it's not what it was. It's moving towards, I do kind of like you, and you know what I mean. And it's not a romantic thing. Don't get me wrong on that either. It's just a they're no longer like in this because they have to be. They're in this because they're in it together. If that makes sense to you.
It does. It totally does. Yeah. And then you get this sense, and then she's she's sort of in this different headspace, and we're already dealing with like a more emotional moment. And then in that moment, she starts, he's doing his thing and pontificating, and she's just like, I'm itchy. Are you itchy? It feels itchy out here. Yeah. So she says like 10 things in a row, and it's like, you got the line there, and it's just great.
Yeah. Yeah. And actually, like before she does that though, I just to kind of go back to it, she when he does the whole thing about, well, how do you think they would feel if they knew who your daddy was and something, and then she said, so she kind of, it's like they're kind of like joking on each other, they're ragging on each other, but not mean spirited. You know what I mean? It's like the way friends do, because she responds to his dig about her daddy with like, you weren't afraid that I was going to join up with them, were you? And then then she's like, because I saw right away it was just wearing another uniform. That's all they have. That's all they offer. Yeah,
it's a bunch of matching coats. Again. A bunch of matching. But again,
she says it in a real kind of playful way. You know what I mean? It's not that. If you look at them in previous scenes, they do not have that kind of banter. It's it's much more, I don't like you banter. It's like we're both forced to be here, and this is the first time where it didn't kind of have that feeling to it. And I thought that was really interesting that again we're seeing who's changing who. And then of course now we get into the I think the comic gold of the episode, in that Lucy's walking, and all of a sudden she's like, is it just me, or is the air extra itchy and heavy today? and and then you're right, and it's like she just fires off like 10 lines of dialogue just really fast, and she's talking very quickly, like much quicker than her brain can work, but her mouth is just spewing out words, and she goes, the air's itchy and heavy. Do you ever feel like that? And also like hungry for food? and he's just like, why, yes, I have felt that way. And she's like, well, what is it? And he's like, it's you're addicted to drugs.
And he has to explain the whole thing because she's so, oh my God, she's so like with like a doe-eyed, like innocent in this moment when he's describing it to her, because she's like, I've never taken drugs in my life. And he's like, okay, you just spent 2 days on buffer, and
out.
that will do it to you. Buff out or whatever. Yeah. And so she's just like, oh, damn it. She's like, and she even says too, she's like, okay. So like, well then, she's like, there's 2 things you can do. And you can either, you can quit cold turkey, and then there's withdrawals like 4 to 5 days or whatever. And then, and he's like, or you could do what I do, which is take more drugs.
Take more drugs.
And she's like, well, she doesn't want to be like him.
Yeah, right.
And, she's like, well, in the interest of time, she's like, well, I hereby quit drugs. And then she's like, he literally touches his pocket and doesn't do anything else. And she's like, what are you doing? What's in there?
What do you got
oh my
there?
God.
Yeah. She's like, damn it, I didn't quit them. Yeah. Oh yeah. And then she's like, well, the goal is to go get my father, and I really can't be incapacitated that long, so I will continue to go on drugs until we get my dad.
Yeah. Just, oh my God, it was just hilarious, because it's like, it took her, in disclaimer, being addicted to drugs is no joke.
No.
But it's kind of a humorous way to show like people who are like, oh, just kick the drugs, and you're just like, okay, that sounds real simple, but
however,
and like literally her mindset is exactly how a drug addict would be. She's just literally like, okay, fine, I will quit drugs. And 3 seconds later, she's like, what do you have? What can you give me? And it's like, oh, damn it. It's done humorously and with like, wide-eyed optimism and all that. But
I believe she says, oh, fudge. But yes.
She sure does.
Yes, yeah.
She uses fudge a few times this episode, and I think it's hilarious.
Yeah, it's wonderful. Yeah.
And if ever there was someone who's going to say forking shirt balls, it was going to
it would be her. Absolutely. Yeah. And again, I just would point out, Buff Out is in the game. There are, in the world of Fallout, there are actually multiple drugs you can take in the game. And there's Buff Out, which basically increases your strength and your physical stamina and so on. So if you like have a whole bunch of, they basically in the game, you can only carry so much weight. Like they determine, you can carry 200 pounds, and then once you get to that amount, it's like you can't add anything else to your inventory. They'll say, nope, it's too heavy. So you take Buff Out, and that increases your ability to carry stuff, right? Then there's a drug that you can find called Mentats, which increases your intelligence, and you're smarter. It allows you to like hack more sophisticated computers and pick harder locks and things like that. There's a drug which we talked about last in season 1 called Psycho, which is like almost like PCP, where like you go on it and you get this big burst and you're kind of immune to pain, and it kind of helps your like hand-to-hand combat and stuff. And there's Radaway and other things as well. And the interesting thing about the game is if you take those drugs too much, you do get addicted in the game, which I thought was very, first of all, it's interesting to see that a game would do that. And second of all, that they pulled that element from the game into the show, I thought was really, really interesting. And in game terms, it's pretty much what you would imagine. You're addicted. You basically got to keep taking it. And if you don't take it, your abilities suffer until you take more because you're going through withdrawal. However, in the game, what you come across medical people, and I'm not talking like the guy that turned Thaddeus into a ghoul. I'm talking like in towns and villages, there'll be like a doctor's office or something. And usually you go in there and they will be like, is there an addiction we can cure you of? And if you pay enough bottle caps, it's some sort of, they wave a magic wand and you're no longer addicted to whatever it is you're addicted to. So not exactly accurate as to how it works in real life, but it's a game. What are you gonna do?
Yeah.
So
that's interesting. The drug, the Mentat one, because that's those are the ones in the Dune universe that have
right,
like the special smarts. They
like
they're the ones that advise,
and
etc.
Thufir and Peter are both considered Mentats, and they got the little mark on their lip and stuff. And I don't know this for a fact, but I would not surprise me at all as if the people who made the Fallout game named them after those guys. Right.
Oh, it seems like they did. And especially since I'm pretty sure in the Dune universe, the Mentats get their extra ordinary abilities from they use the spice.
They ingest the spice. Yeah, absolutely. So I'm sure it is. I just thought it was really interesting that out of all the game things that are in all the different features that are in the game, that's one of them he pulled out was that, hey, you're addicted to Puff Out.
It's a nice little, and I'm sure all the game people were like, oh my God, she's addicted to Buff Out. Yeah, that's great.
It was. It was super funny. And like when I love it when she's like, well, what do I do? Because like you said, like she's like probably like maybe taken like an aspirin before in her life, So right. never had any experience with this at all. And he's like, well, there's two schools of thought. You can just ride it out. And she's like, and how's that work? And he's like, it takes like 4 or 5 days. You go through all the withdrawal and the vomiting and the cramps and the pain. And you see her and she's like, the wheels are turning. And she's like, ugh, that sounds awful. And he's like, what's the other option? And he's like, what I usually do. And then he gets the bottle of Buff Out in pill form. And he's like, take more drugs. Oh, it was so funny. It was so funny.
And I love how she does like the justification too, because she's not like, she doesn't say like, well, I really want the drugs that you're sort of shoving in my face right now, but what I'm doing is I'm doing it because we need to get to my dad quicker, and we don't have time for me to do what would be the smarter choice.
Sure.
We got to do the dumb choice because we got to get going.
I don't have a week to sit here and detox, okay? So I'm doing this for the greater good, okay?
Yeah. We do get, and so they move on. They're almost to Vegas. They're like right on the outskirts of town. Mm-hmm. But before we get back to them doing that, we do get a couple of scenes from some, like I told you before, this episode is packed with a bunch of different things. So we get Maximus getting back to the Brotherhood,
right?
And that's hilarious, because then we see Thaddeus getting off of the vertibird and he's just like clunking into stuff, and Dane and I love Dane immediately is like, what did you do?
Oh yeah. Dane immediately knows that something is not right, and Max is like, and I wrote the line down because Max is like, I did the right thing, but now Xander is dead. And then Dane's like, well, you've killed us all. We're all going to die now because of that. And Max is literally like, you don't understand, okay? You know what I mean? I didn't have a choice, all right? He was going to do something really bad, and so I had to do it. And the whole time in the background, Thaddeus is literally like, he's like, getting out of the vertibird, he's like going out like a toddler, like trying to go down a step where he's like on his hands and knees and putting one leg out behind him, and he's like, I can't reach it. I mean, and how anybody at the Brotherhood could ever think he's the guy, that he was
Yep.
Xander. It's like, there's no way. What is wrong with you people? You know what I mean?
It's
Oh
hilarious.
yeah, it,
He's so opposite, absolutely opposite, because like the image of like, because Kumail is so like, as a human being, like he's in shape, he's actually pretty buff because of his whole Marvel thing he was in, but his hair is all coiffed perfectly, and he's wearing like the nice leather flight jacket, and
mhm.
he's just like, he's an attractive guy. He
Right.
just is, and he's got the charisma and the charm and all the other stuff. And so you would assume, and when he got into the armor, he was just like, I'm a dude and whatever. But to see like Thaddeus bumbling around and that everybody around them is like, yeah, sure, that's Xander.
Yeah.
It's just hilarious.
Or like what we said before. Yeah, whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah.
whatever.
I'm gonna go play with a
Yeah.
grenade.
Yeah. It's fantastic.
Uh-huh.
So we basically, he tells Dane, I did something bad, but I have a plan. And he's like, so, I need you to back me up and blah, blah, blah.
When he tells Dane to take all the recruits,
Kids,
and
yeah.
like get them someplace safe. And then
Yeah.
Dane's like, well, what are you gonna do? And then I know you wrote this down, because Max is very matter of fact about it. It's not a big plan. It's kind of a simple plan.
Yeah, like, what are you gonna do? And he's like, I'm gonna kill Quintus. And you're just like, okay, I feel like there's some holes in your plan.
Yeah.
I mean, and I'm not talking
Yeah.
gunshots, but yeah. So, and it's great because the way everything sort of times out, that like all at the same time, and Dane does what he asks and gets all the young recruits, puts them in a room and closes it, and is like, don't come out until you hear the gunfire stop. And I'm like, that's not, that doesn't, it's not a dark thing to say to someone as you
No.
close them into a room. So three things are happening at the same time. Max is confronting Quintus about everything that happened. Thaddeus is down in like the mess hall and has this whole moment with the elder from that's the Yosemite group. I think she said her name is Elder McCrae or something like that. I can't remember. She said her name because she introduced herself, because he's the emissary from the Commonwealth, and she's so nice to. It's so nice to meet you face to face. So there's that moment going on, and then Dane is sort of like skulking around, and in the end we come to find out, because Dane is really smart. Dane understands that the artifact in the Brotherhood's hand is gonna be bad. And it's, to be fair, in anyone's hands, it would probably be bad. You gotta figure it gives someone's kind of infinite power, so it's gonna be interesting to see how that's, how someone wields that down the line. But Dane kind of disconnects the artifact so that it can be given to Maximus as he, departs in the next couple of scenes later. But like all at the same time, we've got Dane putting the kids in the room and then going to take the artifact. We got Thaddeus having his moment in the
in the
like,
cafeteria. Oh, it's hilarious.
Yeah, and then meanwhile Maximus is confronting Quintus, and the Maximus Quintus scene is incredible because you see it sort of fall apart, because it starts out good because he's like, listen, and he was honest. He's like, I was with Xander. I had to kill him. He was going to kill children.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see Quintus rolling it over in his head, almost like, you made a difficult decision. That's not what we should have done. Like, he wasn't mad off the bat. He was more like taking that in, like, oh, he made this choice based on this bad thing that was in front of him. But then Maximus had to tell him more.
Yes, yeah. Well,
And he's
they
like,
were ghoul children.
and he was like, "Bah!" Immediately, everything changes in that moment. You feel the air get sucked out of the room, and Quintus is like, "Abominations, child abominations," and
Mm-hmm.
he's like, "No, no, they were children." He's like, "No, abominations. The Codex says," and blah blah blah, and he's pontificating and da 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 da, and he's just it's so funny, like they are true, like they are disgusted. The brotherhood, like the people that are true believers, are disgusted by the people who are become ghouls. It's just so interesting to see. I mean, there are some parallels there, but it's really really mind-boggling. I mean, he when in the very last episode he told Maximus that he was stupid for even thinking that killing Xander would be a viable idea. Now, after being told that he killed Xander, but because of this other thing, he was you could see it. He was on the precipice of saying something like, let's figure out how to move forward. Like, it's a terrible choice you made, but you could see it in his face that he was trying to craft, like, how do we get out of this? How do we take what happened and paint it as your guy came here and did a terrible thing and my guy stopped him and he's a hero and da da da. So in that split second, you can see him sort of like the wheels are turning, and then as soon as he says ghoul, everything changed.
Yes.
Just everything changed. He was just like, abominations. He probably would have thrown up if he had been able to.
Right, yeah. Oh, yeah,
he
yeah,
just
yeah.
was so disgusted at the thought.
Well, and it kind of harks back to the previous episode when he's appealing to the three faction leaders that are there, and he's telling the story, or maybe it's when he's talking to the woman faction leader, and he's telling the story of how the Brotherhood was founded, and the guy went to some facility and they were experimenting on kids, and he ended up shooting everyone, then he killed everyone that tried to stop him, and he chose God over his government. And it's very similar to Max's story, right, in that he went there and his orders were to kill these abominations, and I'm using air quotes right now, and he decided that was immoral, and that no, they're just kids, they're not evil, and so he killed the people that were going to kill them, very much like the Brotherhood story. And you would think maybe Quintus would be like, yeah, that's good, well done. And it's just like, nope, you gotta go. That's not even considering.
No.
Yeah.
He immediately, and as soon as he does, like, he pulls out a gun and is like, now it's battle time. Now we're gonna be shooting at each other. This is, it goes from my son to you dead to me in like a half a second. You're dead to me.
Yeah, and we should point out too that when Max comes in and he said, he goes, I killed Quintus, and then he pulls out a laser pistol on Quintus, and Quintus is like, and now you're going to kill me, and then he's like, what did you do? And then Max kind of tells his side of the story, and you're right, it's like, Quintus is kind of thinking it over, but as soon as the G word is mentioned, then it's like, yeah, nope, you're dead to me. That's it. And then he goes and he gets his own gun, and you're right. And now they're shooting at each other. And literally at about the exact same moment that they start shooting at each other, back in the cafeteria, while Thaddeus is like, whatever possessed Thaddeus to go to the cafeteria and get something to eat is beyond me. Because it's like, dude, how are you going to eat it? You can't lift up your visor, And he's literally walking around with a tray with like, tater tots and like Salisbury steak on it, right? And he, as he's like in there trying to figure out what to do, the woman faction leader from not from Coronado, but from Yosemite. She comes up and she's like, sir, can I have a moment of your time? And he's like, sure. And she's like, I'm the leader of Yosemite. He's like, of course you are. Yeah, right. And she is like basically pitching this, like, it was not my idea about this whole, like, insurrection, and you know, I wasn't really with them, and you know, we will happy to join you, you know, and if you maybe could do, you know, give us like 300 power cores, and then you know, Brian Thompson, the guy from all the B movies from the 80s and the 90s, who is the leader
Yes.
of the Coronado faction, he comes up and he's like, "What's this? Making a deal? You know, Coronado can make deals too." And he's like, "I'll give you Quintus' head on a pike right now." Blah blah blah. You know, and so and it's great because she looks at him because he's dissing on her, and she's like, "You say that again, and I will stab you in the mouth with my knife." And he's just like, "Yeah, whatever." Yeah, again, going back to the way the knights sound through the thing, like whatever, you know, and
Yeah.
clearly dismisses her because she's a woman, and you know, and their little group, they don't even let the women speak, right? Isn't that his thing, that they're like that?
Yes.
And
Yes.
so he is trying to like butt in and take over, and like literally right when Quintus and Maximus start shooting at each other, that's when the leader of the Yosemite faction has literally reached her limit on taking shirt from anyone, because she just walks up to him and she stabs him in the mouth with her knife.
I love it. Yeah, it's crazy because it's and all of this is happening like literally they keep showing the behind the you know the face guard
Mhm.
mask, so you get the interior shot of Thaddeus's
Yeah,
face
like
and right
the
before
Iron Man shot. Yeah.
yeah but in right before she loses her shit he
Oh,
they're having this sort of conversation
I'm
where the
having
guy
a
is like,
panic
oh we
attack.
and yeah, and he's like, a what?
Yeah.
He's like, you know, when your heart is racing and you can't stop breathing, but you can't start breathing, and it's you know, you just there's too much breathing happening, and you just need to sit down, and he won't stop talking,
Oh yeah.
and he's like, and you're hot and sweaty, but you know, also cold, and it's just going on, and the dude is like, sounds like a heart thing.
Yeah.
You should just sit down for a second.
Yeah, yeah. Walk it off.
Yeah, walk it. Yeah, that's what it was. It sounds like a heart thing. Just walk it off. You
Right.
know, like total dude about it.
Oh yeah.
And so you already know that he's in like a like panic attack mode, and then this Yosemite gal just like stabs, like it's like literally right in front of him, and he's just like, oh my god.
Oh yeah. Well, and then once that happens, then like all the rest of the people that are in the cafeteria, because it's all people from Yosemite, people from Coronado, people, you know, from the you know, from Max and Quintus's group. I mean, it's like different, all the different factions are all in there. They all start shooting at each other. It's like
Yeah.
the war, the hot war is on, you know,
Yeah.
and it's just Thaddeus is like, well, time to go.
Yeah. He's like, see ya.
Yeah, yeah, oh yeah, yeah. That's and so
It-
Quintus, Max and Quintus, they don't kill each other, you know, and so Max ends up running out, and he like closes the door, and he like ties a chain around the doorknob so Quintus can't get out, and
Yep.
he runs into Max. Or he runs into Dane, and Dane's like, "Did you kill him?" And Max is like, "Yeah, no, I couldn't." And so Dane is like, get out of here, you know, just run,
Yeah.
go, you know, and he's like, what are you gonna do? And Dane's like, what we always do, survive, you know, we'll figure
Yeah.
it out. And so
Yeah.
and then
And in that moment, Dane gave the artifact
yeah,
over
oh
to him,
right,
too.
right, yeah,
Yeah.
gives
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
cold fusion. You're right, because we see that bit where Dane goes into the hangar where they've got all the tech set up, and the cold fusion is running.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah, and then she shows up, and somehow she got it back in the little vial, and so she gives it to him. So now Max has that, which, you know, could be bad because, you know, he's going to go looking for Lucy. And of course, Lucy is going to the place where they want the cold fusion in the first place. So I don't know story wise what's going to happen, but my spidey sense is like, I don't know if that was a wise choice. And so then Thaddeus shows up and is like, hey guys, we got to leave. You know, let's go. And so
Yeah.
I thought there was a really cool effects shot we get of Thaddeus and Maximus, and they're walking out in the desert away from the facility, and behind them there are like four of the Brotherhood's like armored blimps, the dirigibles that they use,
Yep.
and they're
Yep.
all like firing broadsides at each other, in combat, and one of them like explodes in flame and like spirals into the ground and crashes, and it's spectacular, and just really, really kind of an interesting shot where in the foreground we have Max and Thaddeus and they're just trying to get away, and in the background you're like, wow, a lot of heavy stuff is going on back there, like they're really going at
Yes.
it.
Yes. And you have to assume, like, we already know that some of those warships and stuff, they're not all like the Brotherhood that's there. Those are like the ships for like the Coronado
Oh
faction.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. The Dakota, though. So they are. He really did start Civil War. Without
did.
meaning to,
Right.
And
yeah.
and it just sort of fell apart. And he's like, okay, I get to get out of here.
Yeah. So, well, my work here is done.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah,
he's taking his dad's word to heart. He's leaving the Brotherhood just a little bit better than he left it.
He is. And the thing that Dane said where they were like, we'll do what we always done. We'll survive. Which means they've got what they need. Yes, like they're going to have to do some kind of rebuilding, but I think Dane feels more positive about the future with the Brotherhood.
Mm-hmm.
Because they have said, the Brotherhood will find you.
Yeah.
They'll track you down. So Dane has sort of adopted the whole, like, I'm here for the rest of my life, no matter what. And I think just getting rid of the relic makes Dane feel like at least we won't have, like, infinite power.
Yes.
So there'll be this rebuild process, but it won't be built around this thing which makes us any sort of, air quotes, better than all of the other factions
right.
or groups. We'll still be on sort of an even keel. So, we'll be able to, as Dane said, they'll be able to survive, but they might actually be able to get back to what they were about before because they won't have this thing, So that's good to know.
Mm-hmm.
Good to know. We get we got a couple of scenes that, because I really want to talk about the Cooper and Lucy stuff, the action scene and the Elvis stuff. But before we do that, let's make sure to hit. There's a really great scene that you put a note in there. Great comment. Establishing sort of where we are in the vaults.
Yes.
And there's a scene with Reg's little social group. And
it's a snack group.
It's great. And basically, Reg's group has sort of exploded. Like, we were there for the first meeting, and it was like the couple who clearly want to be able to get together. They're like, oh, you want to change the laws? They're like, no. And they're like, oh, goodbye. We're out of here.
Yeah.
And they're clearly like first cousins or something, and would like to be husband and wife.
And they're clearly all over each other. Like, they're like touching, and you're just like, stop it.
Oh, gross. It's so gross. And then they leave, and it's literally just one woman and Reg. Yeah. And it's so sad. But now things have exploded since the last we saw them. But come to find out, he is still getting, like, as he said, a snack budget. And they are under austerity measures because of the broken water chip. They're running out. And so in the same sort of scene, he's having his meeting. There's tons of people there. He runs out of water, and he goes to refill the water. And as he's like getting to the area where he can go refill the water, they show the people that are like have the crops, and they're watering the crops with like a water dropper.
With like an
just
eye
to
dropper,
be like, okay. Yeah, they're like, I can only use this little bit, and you can see that the plants are dying. It's not good. And he's just like, I'm coming down here, and I'm gonna get these filled and whatever. And he has this great scene with Betty where she's like, what is wrong with you? What are you doing? And he's like, you gave me a budget. You approved it. And he just will not see it, that they are literally coming to the meeting just so that they can have more snacks and more water.
Water, I think, is the main thing. Yeah.
Yeah, because they can't have any. They're only allowed, the loudspeaker gives off the information, they're only allowed a liter
1 liter a
of
day. Yeah.
water.
Oh yeah.
And that's for everything. That includes like showering, cleaning, whatever, and drinking. So,
Yeah.
so, and he's just walking around with these like two big containers, and he's just like, I'm refilling these, and they're watering with like an eyedropper.
Yeah.
So it's just
Well,
the cognitive dissonance of Reg is hilarious in that moment.
And you know what's funny to me is that when the scene opens, we see Reg, and he has this like 3-tiered like carrier of like brownies and cookies, and you know, he's setting it on the table, and you see the table's got a big punch bowl with some kind of like fruit punch in it, and like you said, there's got to be like 20 people in this room, and they're all eating and drinking and laughing, and I mean, they're clearly not really discussing like the horrors of being like, you know, your cousin's your dad, and that kind of inbreeding thing. That, you know, the shame of it, which, remember, Reg could handle the shame. You know, he it's not about that. It's literally they're just getting together and you know, eating and you know, commiserating. I mean, it's a social thing. And you're right, these like two big like 50s style thermos, you know, water dispensers are empty.
Yep.
And he's like, and he's so great because he's like, oh, well, I'll just go get some more, you know? And so he picks them up, and he's walking down the corridor of the vault, and other people are out walking around doing, you know, whatever it is they're doing in their day. And literally this woman walks by, and she sees Reg, and on the closed captioning, they spell it out, but you can hear her. She's like, nice jugs, Reg.
It's such
Which
a
I
great
thought,
moment.
I just, yeah, laughed. And then, of course, he runs into Betty, and Betty's like, what are you doing? And he's like, got to get more water. And she's just like, are you insane? You know, and you know, it's so funny because Reg is just so clueless. And, you know, Betty's like, I am this close to killing you. You know what I mean? She's like,
Yeah.
I'm so close to just shooting you and just get, yeah. And when she complains about, you know, and he's like, well, nobody really likes you now. And she's like, I had to do austerity measures, or we didn't have a choice, you know. And she's like, you can't keep doing this. And he's like, the snacks are baked into the charter. There's no way around it, you know. And so she's just like, damn it. Oh yeah, it's a very, very weird but funny little scene that just shows you how bad things are getting in 33.
And it's great too because the group only exists because Betty suggested it to him to get him out of the way. So
to get rid of him.
You know, so she's sort of in like a foisted on her own petard moment there, where it's like, this is a shitty situation of her own doing. She sort of got them there, which is, you know, I don't feel bad for Betty, but, you know. So what's great is then we get this great scene where Woody is walking along, and he's doing the whole, like, left, then right, then right, then left, then left, then right. And he stumbles upon Steph and Betty having this secret meeting, and he hears the whole thing. And the beginning of it is the best because it's, you know, you hear Steph saying, the whole thing is empty and all the cryo tubes are empty too. And they're talking about, you know, so clearly Steph knew that Norm was in the vault as well.
Oh, yeah.
Were they in Vault 32 or 33?
All the buds were in 31.
31. Okay.
The vault that Lucy and everyone else came from was 33, and then 32 is the vault that that everybody had died and the Raiders had taken over, and then they sent some of the 33 people over to repopulate, and Steph was put in charge of it. So that's gotcha. the setup. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. So, you know, they're talking about the state of 31, and you know, Norm's not there. Everybody's gone. The cryotubes are empty, and they don't know. And Betty's just like, I don't know what's going on. And then she's like, and then to further complicate everything, we're almost out of water. The water chip was damaged and blah, blah, blah. And, I was hoping for some help here. And you can see Steph is basically like, yeah, I don't know about that. I don't know that we're going to help. And she's just real kind of vague about like, I'm not sure, you and I haven't seen eye to eye in the past. And I'm like, and you're going to let people, like, Steph is cold in this moment where she's just basically on the verge of letting people die because she and Betty don't get along, is what the sense I got.
I loved her performance in this whole sequence. What a turnaround for this character, because in season 1, until the very end, you just think she's just another Vaulty, very similar to Lucy, and that she could even be a good guy, and the actress name is Annabelle O'Hagan is the woman who plays, and I mean she has been amazing this year, because she is in full blown Birch mode for this scene where Betty has legitimate, like, look, these people you lived with that, would probably say they are friends of yours, that they consider you a friend. They're all going to die unless you help us out with the water. And she's sort of like, yeah, well, too bad. You know what I mean? It's literally like, sorry, and I mean, it was just so delicious, and how she just was reveling and like, you know what? I hold all the power right now, Betty. And, if you want me to help you, it's going to cost a lot. And finally, Betty is like, what do what do I have to do? Right. And I thought this was really interesting, and I'm dying to ask you about it, because Steph goes, Hank had a keepsake box.
Oh yes.
And she's like, and she's like, and there, it's locked, but there's something in there that I want. And Betty kind of has that, okay, what's going on here, look in her eye, and she's like, what's in it? And all she says is something personal. And and she's like, if you bring it to me, bring me the box, then we can talk about you tapping into our water supply to feed your people. So I'm dying to know what's your gut thought right off the bat? What do you think's in there that she wants?
I think that there's something that shows that she misrepresented herself when she first applied to be like a person in one of the vaults or whatever. Because we get the scene later, which is fantastic. The scene where, because all of this happens and Woody hears every single damn thing that's being said.
Yep.
And then he has the confrontation scene later, and oh my God, that's uncomfortable. And Chet is listening to the whole confrontation scene while he's also putting laundry away, because he's a good man. And he's putting stuff away and realizes there's like a false bottom in one of the drawers.
It's always the sock drawer, people. Always look in the sock drawer. That's where people hide their deepest, darkest secrets.
And he pops it open, and it's so surprising. It's like an old school, like a lady's wallet. And he opens it up, and in the wallet, there's an ID that shows that Steph is from Canada.
She's Canadian.
Or So... But as far as I knew, all of the vaults and the everything that Vault Tech was about, if I'm remembering this correctly, everything was geared toward, USA, very like America first thing. So is that what she's looking for? Is like, did she misrepresent herself, even though she's a Canadian citizen and she somehow made it in? Is she some kind of spy from Canada that's gonna? Maybe. I don't know. It's very interesting. The first time I watched it, I wondered if that wallet is what was in his things, but I think it's the opposite. I think there's something in his things that also connects to that wallet, like whether it's her passport or something that also confirms what it was that Chet saw in the drawer. So I that's what I think it is. I think there's something in that drawer that proves that she is not who she claimed to be.
Mm-hmm.
And don't get me wrong, like this is layers upon layers of subterfuge, as it were. I mean, because these people spent, like Betty even said, she's like, I was woken up, what'd she say, 40 years ago?
Yeah.
So she was asleep in the chamber for like what, 160 years or something like that?
Yep.
And then was just woken up 40 years ago, which means Steph, who looks markedly younger, was only woken up probably, within the last 10 years or so, you would say.
Mm-hmm.
So, but you would have to think the people that applied to be a part of this very elite program to be woken up, which was part of this whole plan that Vault-Tec had, I feel like Steph isn't who she says she was, and she did something to get in there, like something bad. I don't know. I just think she's really been very mysterious anyway about all this stuff. So, and her reasonings for not liking Betty, like it's just so odd. I'm very curious to see what it is, but I really think it's gonna relate back to that ID that Chet found in the wallet.
Okay, yeah. My thought is, I at this point, I'm not sure. It has to be something about her, though, right? It's something that she clearly like Hank had it, and that is sort of like a little bit of leverage that he had to control her and get her to do. Maybe he was, sleeping with her. Maybe he was, whatever. I don't know. But obviously it's something that she, is willing to negotiate with because she wants back. So it's got to be very important to her. The wallet, the thing that I think is going to be the important part about the wallet and the ID is that it's an ID from the before time. So Chet's looking at, wait, Steph, according to this, Steph is 100 or 228 years old. I mean,
true. That's true.
So that I think is going to force Chet to finally have to do something,
Yeah.
Right. And the other thing in their conversation is, and this is, I think, the key for Woody, and I agree with your comment too, that, it's like, Woody, you are in danger now. Right.
Girl, you in danger.
It's just like, yep. Is that right when they end the conversation? And of course, Betty's like, if you don't give us water, we're all going to die. And her response is, Betty, the experiment is over. And hears that, and literally Steph is like, right now it's just survival. That's all that I'm worried about, is having my vault survive. You know what I mean? And so then Woody gets out of there, so he's not discovered eavesdropping. I wasn't dropping any eaves, right? Dropping
no eaves, sir.
I heard nothing. That just that about a ring and a Dark Lord and the end of the world. Just don't turn me into anything, unnatural.
Unnatural, sir.
And so, but then Woody, because Woody is a rule follower.
Yes.
he goes to the overseer to report what he found, and I love that scene because he's like, it says, it's right in the handbook that when you see someone communicating in this area that it's only supposed to be open during the triannual trade agreement, we're supposed to report it. And she's like, well, okay, what did you see? And she's like, well, I saw you there talking to Betty, and the look on her face is so great because she's like, okay, well, what exactly did you hear? And the whole time he's like, this is so weird because I'm reporting to the overseer, but the person I'm reporting is the overseer. So how is this going to be resolved? And she's like, I will get right back to you on that. And it's so funny, but at the same time, it's menacing, right? Because she's like, literally like, you have to go now. You know what I mean?
Well, in the and then in that moment too, where he almost makes it out the door, and then he comes back and he was
Yeah,
like, "You said something
right.
about
The
the
experiment.
experiment,"
Yeah,
and
yeah.
he's like, "What experiment would that be? What would that? What do you know about that?" And she goes, "What were you talking about there?" And she's like, "Overseer stuff."
Yeah, oh yeah.
And like the tone basically is, "You are never gonna know what we're talking about. You had no business
Yep.
asking. Get out of my face."
Well,
And it's so
it's
menacing the way she
yeah,
says it.
and it's also like, you kind of crossed the line, because now
Mm,
you've told
yeah.
me that you heard something that I know you weren't supposed to hear,
Yes.
and so I don't know, he didn't pick up on it, but clearly the audience does, in that it's like, uh-oh, Woody, you just in reporting that you overheard them, that puts you in jeopardy. But then when you go back and say, by the way, you mentioned an experiment, that's like, oh, it's, you know what I mean? It's like, okay, well, now you have to go, because it's bad enough that you heard me talking to Betty and about what's going on with that, but now you know about the experiment. You don't know what it is, just the fact that there is an experiment, that can't get out. That has to be kept
Yeah.
under wraps. So I'm with you in your comment there, that I'm very worried about Woody. And this show, I don't think this show is going to be squeamish about killing people.
Nope.
I mean, obviously, like Lucy and the Ghoul and Max, I think they're probably have enough plot armor to be safe through most of the season, right?
Right.
But a lot of these secondary characters, I don't think they would blink and not get rid. I mean, they killed Bud,
Yeah. Really quickly. Yeah.
Roomba Bud. I mean, at when they were first having the conversation, and Steph is like, so everybody's gone, and she's like, all the pods are empty, Norm's gone, and I found Bud Budson upside down in like a janitor's bucket. And then a little bit, and at first I'm like, well, maybe he's still alive. Like maybe, like, Norm just kind of dumped him in there, and she like put him back and like repaired him. But then like a couple sentences later, she literally goes, Bud is dead. So
Yeah.
I mean, they killed that guy, right? So would they kill Woody? Would they kill Reg or Davy or some of these, or Chet, for that matter? I don't know, but
Yeah.
I wouldn't put it
Yeah.
past them. So yeah,
I
I'm
know.
worried. Because Woody's he's fun, and it's like, no, Woody, what are you doing, man? you know.
I think what's going to happen actually, like, I know that they're close to, they wouldn't hesitate to kill people, but I think Steph's way of fixing it might be, if you never speak of this again, I'll let you go back to the other vault because I know you're unhappy,
Ooh.
or something. You know
and
what I mean?
and
Something like that.
and he did have that scene where he walks into Dave's room by mistake because he keeps turning left instead of turning right, or turning right instead of turning
Yeah.
left. And
Yeah.
Davey's great because he's like, yeah, everybody goes left when they should go right. It's not a big deal. And they both
Yeah.
literally go, man, what I wouldn't give to go back to Vault 33. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's a really good pickup on your part. I agree with you. I think that could be her way to negotiate out of that problem, is like, you know what? You need to go back to Vault 33. That's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Yep. And
Yeah.
you're
That's,
never going to mention this ever again.
yeah. And it's funny, like, in Chet heard the whole thing happen where she's just, and he knows that she's like a psycho at this point.
Oh
And
yeah.
he hears this whole psycho conversation happening, all of it, all the way up until she's like, overseer stuff, and then shuts the door in his face. Um, and he sees the wallet and the stuff, and knows that there's this secretive thing about Steph. So Woody is in danger, but I don't think Steph thinks Chet thinks anything. But
Mhm.
Chet, I think, is in danger because I think he's going to start to like want to get out of there, but he doesn't have anyone on his side there, is the part. So
Right.
he's going to
Yeah.
probably, confide in someone or try and go and do something, and is either not going to have the support because, there's no Norm. But I'm worried for Chet as well in this moment.
Yeah.
He's in danger too.
Yeah, I agree that, Chet is kind of like the reluctant detective in all of this, that
Yeah.
he's like
Yeah.
slowly getting clues and slowly, from what Norm exposed him to, what they saw in 32 with all the corpses, the skeletons and everything, and all of that, he knows that something is rotten in the state of Denmark here, and it's like
Yep.
it's as much as he's trying to just mind his own business and take care of Chet Jr. and do all of the father, dad, husband things that he's none of those, yet he is. It's like it keeps coming up to him. It keeps, he keeps finding these things out. He keeps hearing these things that he shouldn't. You know what I mean? And eventually, it's going to. He's gonna. You're right. He's gonna come into the crosshairs. So I think, yeah, I think we got to be worried for all three of those guys, Reg, Woody, and Chet, because in their own way, they're all proving that they could be expended.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Oh man. So we have all these like really really like tense scenes there. But we gotta finish up the chat by talking about they make it into Vegas, and the everything with Lucy and the ghoul from here on out and the rest of the episode is just comedy gold.
Oh yeah.
From every moment. They come upon like the gate, like there's like a locked gate that leads to the Vegas Strip, and Coop sort of looks around, gets a bad feeling, and is like, there's a place called Freetown, and we should enter that way, and let's not do this, and whatever. And, it'll take like a half a day out of our way or whatever. And she's like, no more, And of course, now she's hopped
my
up.
dad is right there, is what she says.
Yeah. And she's basically like, I don't, forget it. Let's go do the whole, let's do this and go through. And, one of the last things that happens when they left the NCR is the gal there, she was like, well, we won't be able to carry everything, so do you want to restock? And they looked in the in this this case, and there was a bunch of weapons in there, and so it's like a bunch of different like shotguns and rifles and stuff. So Lucy now has this really great shotgun, which is a lot like Coop's one that he has, and so she's just like, no, I'm tired of waiting. We're just gonna go in there. And she starts moving ahead, and there was like this one ghoul that was sort of asleep over on the side, and he wakes up and starts moving towards, and there's, you see there's movement in different areas. And first of all of the ghouls are dressed like Elvis impersonators.
Yep.
It's so effing awesome. It's so Vegas. It's amazing. I love it. And she's like, we just need to go right through the front gate or whatever. I'm tired of waiting. And he's like, that's the drugs talking. And then he's like, well, truth be told, I like what they're saying.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So she strides right up there, and then a couple of the Elvis ghouls kind of notice her, and she tries at first. She's like, excuse me, my friend and I, we just want to pass right through. We won't be any bother. And then when they like start, threatening her, then it's like, okay, I tried.
Yeah. And the thing that I thought was great was, it starts to come toward her, and her very first shot, oh my God, the parallels. She shoots with the shotgun. She shoots at his leg, and he shoots out the bottom part of the leg, and it's an absolute mirror of when she very first met the ghoul.
The ghoul, yeah.
It's the exact same thing as when he shot out, what's his name? Fizzywigs leg there.
Yeah.
The dude.
Linus from Lost.
Yeah, Linus from Lost. Thank you. Whatever his name, Michael Emerson.
Michael Emerson. Yeah.
Yeah. So he, in that very first scene where she meets him, he does that to the dude. She does it, and you can see in that moment she has a moment of, and you can see it happens and just takes a couple of seconds. She recognizes that she did to this ghoul exactly what the ghoul did to the dude in the town there, and she's like, oh my God, It's exactly what he did. It's brutal. It's bad. Oh my God, I'm becoming more like him. But then she's like, but this felt really good. I got this surge in me,
Oh.
and I kind of like how this feels because it's also the shotgun. The shotgun has so much power in it, and she felt it, and it was like a physical thing. And so she really just is like, okay, we're doing this. And she shoots like once or twice more, calls back to him and is like, it's in the head, so it's fine. Like it's not. So like she feels bad about shooting out the leg, but if she's doing a headshot for them, she's sort of putting them out of their misery. I'm using
Right.
air quotes here. It's not that she's killing them, it's that she's helping them.
They're
so
ghouls.
she doesn't feel guilty, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because they are all ghouls. She's not killing people, she's putting down ghouls, and she's doing a good thing, a good deed, as it were. And she is so hopped up. She's like she ends up after like one moment, she's got blood spattered on her face again.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, Coop is just like leaning up against a car, and he's just taking it all in, and he just has this little grin on his face like, that's my girl.
Yep.
And she's going crazy, just shooting everything in sight. And when she's finished, she says to him, there's the best line of the entire episode. She says, got any cigarettes? I think I'd like to try one. And he goes, one addiction at a time.
Yep. Well, and we should point out too that she shoots the majority of them, and finally there's one ghoul left that's like kind of like walking away from her, and he has like the acoustic guitar strung across his back in Elvis
Amazing.
style, you know, and
Yes,
the pompadour and all that stuff. And she pulls out a different rifle and just calmly aims and fires, and you get the great slow-mo shot of the bullet coming out of the gun, and it's spinning as it's moving forward, and I mean, she follows our mantra, right? Because she aims for the head, and it goes right through the back of his head and blows the front of his forehead off, and I mean, it's a wonderful effect shot, right? And then I love when he falls, because you hear the guitar as he falls, and it hits him, and it goes and it kind of makes like a musical sound as he's tumbling to the ground. And it was just a beautiful way to end that little like actiony shoot up scene where she literally just kills like 6 or 7 Elvis ghouls right there in a row. Yeah, it was very, very fun. And literally she's like, her first thought is like, ooh, got any cigarettes? I'd like to try one, he's just
it's like pop culture has taught her in the 15 movies she's seen that, after a moment of release, your body might want that cigarette.
That's right.
And she's like, she doesn't understand why she wants to try cigarettes, but she wants to try cigarettes right now.
Yes.
And he's just like, whoa, slow down.
Slow your roll, kid.
Just rein it in, could ya?
Yeah.
So they end up getting inside, they're walking around, and he immediately, like we said, we were talking about this, what's the thing? The death claw. We talked about this death claw a little bit when we were talking about the first scene. So, he's walking around, and he immediately knows that, when they first arrived at the gate before they shot all the Elvises, he sees the robot is shot and done. So there's no robots sort of patrolling. But then when they get inside and they're walking around, there's no people, there's nothing. Like, it's very deserted.
She even asks, she goes, shouldn't there be people? And he's like, yes, there should be. So
so it's this moment of she's sort of looking around, trying to figure it out. She's looking, and there's Vegas, there's some, lights, bright lights. It's almost like, in, Dead City, how they lit up Times Square a little bit.
Yeah.
Like the old days. This is similar. They have some of the sort of show lights and marquee lights sort of up. So it's got this Vegas feel to it. So, of course, she's never seen anything like this before. So she is very, looking around, wide-eyed, taking it all in, and is asking him questions and whatever, and he is just like, his eyes are darting around because he's trying to figure out like something's off, something's wrong, and he knows it, but he can't quite put his finger on it just yet. He's trying to like suss out like what could have happened that would have like just like ghouls at the gate, no people around. Like there's
the
like
security
this,
robots are all been smashed and destroyed.
exactly. So like there's a level of offness here that is really unsettling him, and he can't quite put his finger on it. He can't figure out what's wrong in this moment. And then that's when Lucy lifts up like the half of the chicken shell and is just like, wow, I love to see the chicken that laid this egg. And he's like, then it hits him.
Yep.
And he's like, those aren't chickens. And they have this whole like moment of realization, because as soon as he says those aren't chickens, then you hear like the growl, like the faint growl, and it's, you see, and again, it's just like in the first scene, we get this like silhouette because the Deathclaw is inside like a theater of some kind or venue of some kind, but there's like these frosted glass windows, and it's like coming to the front, and you can see the shadow just like we did in the first scene, except in this one we get an actual reveal, and it's very Vegas because it's like da-da, and opens the door, like smashes through the doors, and then when it wants to like sort of stretch up and show its full height, it like smashes into like the top of the the doorway, breaks out the bricks. You get a real sense of how big and tall and massive and ultimately difficult it's going to be to kill this thing.
Oh yes.
And Coop is just like dumbstruck. He's not speaking, he's not giving any advice, he's not saying what they should do next. He's just sort of there. And there's like all of this, like you see this moment like completely unfold. We get this great, Coop is looking like, you made the note there that he looks like he did in the first scene.
Yeah. But he's terrified.
Exactly. And he's got all this PTSD wrapped up around the Deathclaw. So it's like, which you understand now. And he's just standing there. And then Lucy sees the full height of this thing and just says, okie dokie.
Yep.
And that, my friends, is the end of the episode.
Which is really interesting. They kind of bookmarked the episode because the Chinese woman soldier says okie dokie. Yep. And it ends
too,
with her saying okie dokie. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, once Coop does the math and it adds up, and it equals Deathclaw, and then when it shows up, I mean, he clearly deer in the headlights. He's not. Yep. There's no more quips. There's no more one-liners. There's no more. Well, what are you gonna do about that, Miss Lucy McLean? It's just sort of he's frozen because he knows from that last experience that this is very bad.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's it. That's the episode. I loved how it started, like we said before, the bookend of the okie dokie, but the bookend of the Deathclaw, like sort of getting the starter image of it, just like this hint of the image of it, and then getting the full weight of what this is and what it entails and what kind of battle they're in for at the very last moment right before the end of the scene. Just really well done. And it's, bookended by Coop in two of his different worlds, and he's basically two totally different people in these scenes too. So it's just this real interesting mixture of those two scenes. It was just such a really great way to structure the whole episode. I thought it was fantastic. I think we did a good job of hitting a lot of stuff, but I know for sure that we did hop over the Norm scene and didn't really talk a little bit about that. You've got at least a quote in there. I think I might have included something about that as well. But
we did.
Yeah, you go ahead and talk about what you got.
Yeah, we also go back to Norm and his little buds, and they've made their way like into Los Angeles, and they've like found food. They've like, were raiding like a supply truck, and the guys, I guess the food is still edible because they're eating it, and
Yep.
uh and of course he's trying to kind of shepherd them along, and he's trying to be like, come on, we got to keep moving, and they're all just sort of like, hey, this is really cool, and the one girl is looking at the bridge and kind of lamenting because, like, for her it was like a week ago that she was there, and it's actually 200 years and all that, and
Right.
um what I liked was that there was a character that we are introduced to named Ronnie, who introduces himself to Norm, and Ronnie's like, I was Bud's assistant,
Yeah.
and so I like got lunch when he would meet with the Voltec people, or he'd meet with various higher ups to discuss the plan,
Yeah.
and Norm's like, what do you know about that? And he's like, well, I mean, I'm just a guy who got lunch, but the way he's saying it, it's like, I know everything, but I'm just the guy that got lunch, and he kind of, it's sort of like you can see that like he's getting ready for a power play, because he's sort of letting Norm know that he knows that Norm's lying, and
Yep.
and everything Norm has said he knows is bogus, and he's like, I'm not gonna blow the whistle on you right now unless you force me to, but like,
Yep.
you're basically, I'm gonna be in charge soon, that kind of thing. I mean, that's the vibe I
Yep.
got anyway. And he Norm's like, what do you know about that? And he's like, I just got lunch and I wrote this line down, and he goes, but I do know that phase 2 was very important to the experiment. And I think he starts the conversation by going, shouldn't we be starting phase 2?
Yeah. And
And
Norm's like, what are you talking about?
yeah, right. And then he's like, well, and at that point then Norm just kind of goes, okay, Ronnie, lead us out. And Ronnie's
Yeah.
like, you got it, boss. And just but it's the most condescending, and he kind of gives that
Mm.
little wink, and
Yep.
and
Yep.
and he's sort of just like, you just got yourself a new problem,
Yeah.
and yeah, and so it was a very quick scene. And then again, I know there's the bit with the woman that you were, the one of the girls that you wrote down.
Oh yeah, that was
Um,
my line. I knew I put something. They're sort of scavenging for stuff. So there's this really funny scene where they're, scavenging for, I think it's boxes of pasta, and they're eating it
it's like
raw.
it's macaroni and cheese, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so they're the girl, this one girl, part of the group, uh she's sort of standing there staring off into the distance, and Norm comes up and asks if she's okay, and she's having trouble, she's like, this is so different, and I forget how they kind of get there, but the main crux of it is that she looks in the distance, and there's like a bridge ahead of them down the street, and she's
Mhm.
like, I drove down across that bridge a week ago.
Yeah, yeah, a week
So
ago
in
for
her,
her.
yeah, for her it was a week ago. So that just goes to show, like, 1 week after, and it's so sad because he's like, where were you going? And she's like, an interview at Vault-Tec. So
Yeah,
she was hired at Vault-Tec, and a week later,
they froze her.
she's put asleep, she's frozen and put asleep, and the apocalypse happens, and all the, you know what I mean, like all this stuff, and it's like, in her mind, it was just a week ago she was driving around in her car.
Yeah,
That's so weird. That's such a weird sort of like cognitive like thing to sort of wrap your brain around.
yeah,
Yeah.
oh yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, and
Yeah.
I think for a lot of them, it's sort of that realization that the world that you knew, that like for her was literally just a week ago. It's not
Yeah.
only is it gone, it's been gone for a long time.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's got to be very sobering. And Norm does a good job of trying to like comfort her and say, it's okay, we're gonna have to, just survive, just that's what we got to do. And then that's when douchebag Ronnie shows up.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So anyway,
Yeah.
it's just interesting because now Norm already has a problem with keeping the lie going, but now it just got like the difficulty level increase, because
Of
I
course.
get the feeling that clearly Ronnie knows that Norm is full of shit.
Yeah.
And
And Ron, to his credit, Norm doesn't give away too much.
no,
He doesn't. I said it sort of offhand, where it's like, what do you mean, phase two? He doesn't actually say that. You can tell it's in his heart, though, when the guy
yeah.
says phase two, and Norm, instead of revealing he doesn't know anything about it, he probes Ronnie and says, "What do you know about it?"
What do you know about it? Right. And you're
Yeah.
right. The way he says it, it's not that sort of like, oh my God, what do you know about it? It's more of like, wait, I know what it is. What do you think it is? That kind of,
Right.
yeah. But
Right.
at the same time, Ronnie is totally giving off the, hey, boss, I know you're full of crap, but
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm gonna just keep playing along because that way you're gonna owe me, and it just,
Yeah.
you're kind of just like, oh, Ronnie, you need to like go run into
Yeah.
a death claw.
Yeah, especially since he claims to know what the next phase is, and they clearly aren't following that because Norm doesn't know the next phase. So even if Norm gives off the vibe of like, I know what I'm doing, I'm in charge, Ronnie is just basically like, I kind of know that you don't know what you're doing, but I'm not going to
Right.
say it out loud. I'm just going to let you know that I
Yes.
know.
Yes.
Which is way more sinister.
It is, and it's also that way I'm going to get all the preferential treatment, right?
Right.
And yeah. So yeah, again, it was a quick little scene. I mean, out of all the storylines, that got the least amount of time.
Yeah.
Was the Norm one. I mean, maybe Reg was about the same, but I kind of group Reg in with all of the Vault stuff as kind of
Yeah.
the same storyline. So, but
Yeah.
yeah, but again, I think it's scene because now it just now Norm's got another problem he's got to deal with. So
Of course. Of course he does. When does Norm not have problems,
Norm,
especially with these guys?
you know it.
Yeah. All right. All right. Well, I don't think there's anything else that we skipped over. I just noticed we didn't talk about that one little scene, but I think we covered everything else pretty well.
Yeah, there's a couple things. That is when the scene at the end where the Deathstalker comes out of the casino or the theater or whatever, you kind of
Yeah.
get a view of kind of like downtown New Vegas, and
Yeah.
like you said, a lot of it's lit up, and that is all straight out of the game. There's a casino in there that I want to say it's called Club 38 or Club 88.
Mm-hmm.
I'm blanking on the exact. That is a place you can go to in the game. That's in the game it's populated. There are people there. That's not overrun by Deathstalkers and stuff. So,
Yeah.
but so they did pull a lot of that stuff. So it is this similar layout and setup of New Vegas. So that was kind of cool. And we talked about just a little bit ago when they're in the NCR camp and they're getting ready to leave, and then the NCR officer opens up the crate and there's all of the weapons, and she's
Yeah.
like, "Do you want to stock up?" And it's at the 1301 timestamp if you are super curious, but there's a musical sting that they use when Lucy looks down and sees all of these shotguns and rifles and stuff in there, and then it kind of dissolves to them walking out of the camp and making their way out into the towards New Vegas. But there's this musical sting that they play that is straight out of the game, and I'm sure all of the gaming nerds all went squee very loudly when that happened, because that musical bit is in what, like, when you load the game it plays that music, and at various points in the game when things happen it plays that music. So I mean it's a huge part of the Fallout game universe, and for them to pull that in, and it's usually in moments like that where you acquire something.
Okay.
You get something that's going to help you and do whatever it is you're trying to do, or you've discovered something, some lost artifact or something. So again, right when she gets all the weapons, that's when they play it. It was really cool. So again, little gaming nerd
Yeah.
side note, but awesome.
Nice.
So amazing. So yeah.
Nice. Awesome. All right. Well, we have talked episode 4 to death, but what we're going to do is go ahead and take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to discuss our listener feedback and stuff coming up on the podcast.
So everyone, please stick around because we will be right back.
Now there's about 20 of them out there.
What will we do?
Don't worry, we're safe in here. They'll never get in.
Why is it that in every zombie story, people always think that their safe haven is invulnerable?
I know. It's like, hello, the walkers are totally going to get in. You better get ready for it.
No! Diane, get behind me. No, it's not stopping.
Do something, Jack!
And another thing, how come nobody in a zombie story has ever seen a zombie story?
Do you know how much time in human life would be saved if just one person in the group was up on the genre?
What do we do?
Aim for the head.
What?
Aim for the head.
You heard them. Aim for the head.
Quick, Diane, I think we should try and fix the barricades.
I think we should listen to them.
Now, that's the first good idea they've had all episode.
I still don't think they're gonna make it.
Aim for the Head, a horror apocalypse entertainment podcast. Join hosts Diana and Steve as they recap and discuss the best of horror, sci-fi, fantasy, and apocalyptic entertainment. Aim for the Head, available wherever you listen to podcasts. Find us on Instagram and Blue Sky.
Hey there, this is Greg Nicotero, and you're listening to Aim for the Head podcast with Diana and Steve. And don't forget to always aim for the head, because body shots, they really just don't work.
Hey there, everybody. We are back. We're going to jump right into our listener feedback, which I actually got all on time this week.
Wow, nice.
And didn't miss any ones. I am so good at doing the bare minimum.
You know, I feel a welling inside of me, whatever.
Whatever. All right. So, this is feedback we received for episode. First up, we got some feedback from our very, very frequent commenter, Erica Price. Hello, Erica.
Hello, Erica.
Erica left us some comments via the Facebook, and she said, LOL, this Chinese soldier saying okie dokie cracks me up. Death Claw? Question mark? What in the world? Things like this running around before Vault Tech dropped the bombs? Oh, yeah, I didn't think about that little wrinkle.
Yep.
She's right. Thaddeus isn't going to get far if he can't even navigate a doorway. It's true. It's true. The brother has some problems with the doorway. Betty has got to do something about the water shortage. Tweaker Lucy. Tweaker Lucy. Now that's something I never thought I'd see. Did Maximus leave his armor behind? Yes, and we explained that because it has a big hole in the head, so
yes.
He can't.
Well, and remember, it wasn't his armor. Xander had a extra set that he let him wear.
Yeah, when they were heading towards the vertibird, and he was like, "Oh, I gotta go grab my armor." He's like, "I got an extra suit in the vertibird."
And he's like, "You have an extra set?"
Yeah, he was all like impressed, and it worked out well for him. So yeah, yes.
After he killed him, yes.
Yeah, and so that extra set did get left behind because it's still encased around Xander. So Betty has been to 31, and now Steph also knows all the pods are empty. I'm surprised they don't want to know where Norm and the other bus went. Yeah, they really didn't they're just like, he's out, he's gone, we don't know where. We have more pressing things to discuss.
I think it's Betty has the water thing to worry about, and wherever Norm went, that can wait. And I think Steph is like, I don't really care. I've got my little vault. I'm going to run my little empire, and to hell with everybody else. So.
Yeah. Plus, I have water, neener, and so I clearly have all the power right now. But yes.
And I'm Canadian.
Yeah, by the way. Steph proving that not all Canadians are nice. See? But yeah, it's true. They don't talk about Norm and what happened to all the buds. But I don't think that's the last we'll hear about that. And Whitty knows too. He does. So that'll be some interesting information. Look at Lucy go. Maybe the buff out isn't so bad after all. This was a great scene. R.I.P. Elvis Schools. Well, I wish Maximus would have killed Quintus. Steph is Canadian. Welcome to Vegas, where we have rampant Elvis ghouls, and if that's not enough, a rabid Deathclaw that looks like the Balrog's long-lost cousin. Okie dokie.
Okie dokie.
Yeah, and I mean, really, that's all you can really say about this episode, is okie dokie.
Okie dokie, yeah. I mean, it's kind of all over that episode.
Yeah.
Right?
Great feedback, Erica. Good job pointing out the fact that there were mutants way back in the before the bombs dropped time. So that's
kind of makes you wonder if, I don't know, maybe Deathclaws were like created maybe by a corporation, and they possibly let them out accidentally or something,
or
I don't
accidentally
know.
on purpose. I don't know.
Maybe. Could my voice get any higher?
I mean, it could, but let's not try that. Let's
right. No, that'd be bad.
Because people are listening to this in their ears. They've got earbuds in. It's
Are they? Okay.
Yeah.
No, it is a really good point, because it's I think it's very natural to just make the assumption of, well, the Deathclaw, like, it was some sort of mutation that has happened since the bombs dropped and all the radiation's out and all that stuff. But you're right. No. Oh no, they were created or emerged or whatever before the bombs were dropped. So yeah. So interesting. Yeah. Interesting.
But great feedback as always, Erica. Thank you so much for sending it in, and high five to Diana for getting it in our actual notes so we can talk about it. So
whatever. All right, so moving along to our second piece of feedback, and this is from our pal Karen. I'm not related to Lauren Cohen. And hello, Karen. And she sent this via the Facebook as well. And she says, number 1, Lucy is fun on drugs.
Yeah, I think we've covered that, and it's totally true.
Yeah, it's totally true. Then she goes, one addiction at a time.
Yeah.
No cigarettes for you, lady. And then she goes, oh, man, there were so many good lines this episode. Yes. I think this was my favorite so far, which was the one addiction at a time. Yeah. So, yes, it was. It was definitely a winner. There's no doubt.
Oh, for sure. Yes.
Then she goes, the Elvis boy band. They're just ghouls, which is what Lucy says, right? Only one thing will help. More drugs.
Yeah. I love it.
Then Thaddeus is so terrible in that suit. He's good at running away. Mm-hmm. And then she goes, when that chick stabbed the guy in the face and the other guy says, fucking awesome. There may be some she goes, these must be some giant chickens, and that's the egg question that Lucy has, right? And then she clucks. Yes, she did. She did do a pok 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 pok. And then Karen writes drugs. It's great.
Yeah.
It's great. Then she goes, I don't even know. I'm sure you'll talk about it all.
We did.
We did. We did. It was so funny, that the whole sequence, which it's great because it's very comedic, yet it slowly goes from comedic to ominous,
Yeah, really fast.
As she's doing all of her jokey, druggy stuff, you can see Coop is clearly very uncomfortable, and it's like something bad is going to happen, right? It was wonderful. It was really great.
Yeah.
And then she finishes with a question here, which I think is really interesting, and I want to get your take on it. And she goes, I wonder who's up in the giant tower. And then she puts a note. The lights were on, and yes, there's like this like Space Needle like structure in New Vegas. And the lights were on there, but the lights were on in a lot of places. But I'll throw it out to you, Miss Diana. Who do you think was up there?
I think they're teasing that if Robert House isn't up there, then there's some kind of evidence, or he once was up there and like he saw the ghoul coming and fled or something like that. But I think they're going to tie it back to Robert House somehow.
Okay.
And maybe not in the next episode, but at some point we'll hopefully get an answer on that one. Yeah. That's my thought.
Yeah, I agree. That was the first thing that jumped into my mind too. That clearly that's where the guy's going to be. Because it's like the most opulent thing, the highest structure, all of the prestige of being there would appeal to that dude's ego,
Of
so
course.
I think that's that's kind of the Occam's razor answer, that it's the most obvious, so it's probably going to be what it is, but you never know, right? It could be something else. Maybe that's where Hank is, right?
Right.
Maybe that's that massive structure with the underground tunnels that he has to drive around to get the lab mice and stuff. Maybe that's underneath it or
Maybe.
something,
Yeah.
right? So we'll have to see. But yeah, I agree. I think that we will. Assuming that the Death Claw doesn't rip both of them to shreds and the show takes a very different turn than where I think it's going, I think we're going to explore more of New Vegas here, and we will start to get some answers, I hope. So
I agree. So speaking of continue in New Vegas, next up is next week we'll be covering episode 5, which airs in just under 48 hours, people. So, get on it when the time comes.
You bet.
Episode 5, title of the episode is The Wrangler. So clearly this is going to be about jeans. I mean,
no, it's going to be about my old car. This is so great.
Jeeps.
I had a Wrangler for a long time. I loved that car until somebody killed it.
Yeah, I know.
So sad. Anyway, yeah, that's a very interesting title because it could mean multiple things.
It could mean. Your car wasn't just killed, it was murdered in the middle of the night while you were sleeping.
It was. And I have it on video, people. It's very sad.
It's very sad. It is very sad. But, it's sad, but it worked out kind of well. But, whatever. Anyway, moving on from your poor, sad, dead Jeep Wrangler. There's no description of the episode yet, so we'll just have to figure it out. I would assume, like we were just saying, that Lucy and the Ghouls' adventures in New Vegas continue. We haven't seen Hank for an episode or so I would assume, since we're in New Vegas, I would hope that we would, check back with him, and I'd love a little bit of a longer, dive with Norm next week. That was a really quickie kind of little episode, little scene there, so I'd love to see just a little bit more. Even if they had like little quick scenes like that, if we got like 2 or 3 of them, that'd be great. So yeah,
well,
that's
don't you just have a feeling that phase 2 is going to take place in Vegas, right? Isn't that just where he's going to lead them? Don't you think?
Yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, he told us Vegas, so let's get to walking. I hope you can carry a lot of uncooked mac and cheese is the question.
200-year-old uncooked
I'm sure
mac and cheese.
Well, it just goes to show we're always told that pasta, like dried boxes of pasta are like absolutely shelf stable. They never really expire. And that's evidence of it right there. So yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. So
like
for your little bug out bag for like the zombie apocalypse, make sure that you have some boxes of pasta in there, because clearly 200 years is not that bad for it.
No, clearly not.
Yeah, so that's what's coming up next week. We are excited for the episode. Don't have a description of it yet, but even if it did, it'd be some sort of, one-line thing from the episode that, wouldn't tell us anything about anything. So it doesn't even really matter if they don't give us anything. So just a couple of things I know in terms of like stuff we're watching. I know I know I'm a bad person. I haven't watched the first season of The Pit, but the second season actually just started back up again last weekend, I think.
Yep.
So if you are into The Pit, make sure you check back in and you're watching season 2. We're hoping to get season 1 taken care of sometime this week or 2, so that we can start watching episodes so that we're not, spoiled on what's happening. So yeah, have you watched any of that series at all?
I did.
Yeah. Ooh, are you watching season 2 right now?
I have not started it yet.
Mm-hmm.
I know that they just dropped back, but the first season's fun. You got to be a fan of the medical drama. I mean, it's very ER-ish. Right down to Noah Wiley being there. Although now Noah Wiley is the old doctor, not the young new doctor.
Yeah.
It's very. I like it. I like the writing.
Mm-hmm.
There are definitely some intense moments there, because it is an emergency room setup, so
Yeah.
all kinds of craziness happens. But yeah, I enjoyed it. Again, if you like medical dramas, you'll like it.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I really am. And I do want to throw out just a quick recommendation for a movie that I caught on Netflix. And Diana from 2019, who was almost 6 years behind in watching this one, I do throw out a recommendation for Ford versus Ferrari, which
wow.
yeah, let me tell you.
Hey, can you hear me all the way back there in the 20 teens?
It was, you know what? I've actually watched a bunch of scenes from it, because it was on HBO for quite a bit right after it came out of the theaters. And there were a couple of times where I like walked in while Sarah was watching like 30 minutes of it or whatever, because she's so infuriating, because she'll watch just like the middle 30 minutes of a movie and then change the channel. And then we went to go watch this, and she was like, after we were finished watching it, I realized the only thing I hadn't seen was probably like the first 20 minutes. And I'm like, you son of a bitch. How does she do that? But yeah, great movie. And I'm not like a racing buff in any sense. And if you are not interested in racing in any way, it doesn't matter. It's gripping no matter what. And Matt Damon and Christian Bale are just fantastic. They're just really, really fantastic. And I know it was nominated for a bunch of awards when it was out. So yeah, very deserved. There's still a couple of movies I've got to see. The awards are starting to get doled out. Golden Globes was over the weekend. So there's still a couple. I still got to watch the One Battle After Another. I have that sitting on the DVR, and I've got to see Sinners as well.
Wow, you're behind, girl.
Super behind, but those two are definitely going to get some Oscar nominations. So I want to sort of get on that one too. So yeah.
Yeah, you should. Yeah, you should. Yeah, actually, since we're going into the Wayback Machine, there's a movie from 2014 I think you'd really like. It's called Fury Road.
My silence means that I'm making faces at you.
Well, since we're pulling movies from, like 20 years ago.
You're so funny. I wanted to share a recommendation. Look, maybe someone hasn't watched it yet. You don't know.
You're supposed to say whatever.
Whatever. And since we're talking about awards, we didn't talk about it last week, but Amy Madigan has been getting nominations for Weapons from different outlets here and there, and she won the Critics' Choice Award.
She did. She totally did.
She didn't win the Golden Globe. She was nominated Sunday night, but the gal from One Battle After Another won that one, which from what I hear from people, very deserved. But yeah, so Amy Madigan was nominated and won that Critics' Choice Award, and she has won a couple of other like sort of Critics' Circle Awards or whatever. So the possibility exists that she could get an Oscar nomination for that role, and I just think as a genre movie like Weapons is, I think that'd be amazing. It really would be.
Yeah.
And she's such an incredible part of that movie. She just is so great as Gladys.
Yeah, she is. She's super fun. And you're right, the genre pictures always tend to get dismissed by the Academy for the big awards because, well, it's not, it's not a serious movie, it's about, magic and spells and witchcraft. How can we take that? It's like, guys, come on. Yeah. Was it an amazing performance or not?
Yeah. The other thing, the other thing I wanted to mention too is that there was an announcement made by the Television Academy for the Emmys that they're going to institute a new award for the Emmys, the Primetime Emmys, that they're going to institute this award called like the Legacy Award. And it's going to be a special award given to television shows that have produced, that have been on the air for a minimum of 5 seasons and that have produced a minimum of 60 episodes. And it sounds to me like I didn't read too much about it, just a little bit of the like the nuts and bolts like that. But it sounds to me like the plan behind this is to kind of it sounds like they want to be able to, with the Academy recognize a show that had a lot of cultural impact that maybe never got its Emmy Awards due, which is really great. It's kind of a way to sort of recognize a show that, like, maybe at the time it was a crowded field and it didn't get a lot of nominations because there was a lot of great TV on at the time, you know. I feel like any other show that was on during the time that, like, Sopranos was on, or, like, you know, any other comedy that was on when Veep was on or whatever, you know, and you see it right now with, like, Hacks getting all the nominations. It's difficult because some shows get nominated year after year after year, and if it's a larger ensemble, maybe it crowds out the acting nominations. So some shows, they may get critically acclaimed, and then they just get sort of, you know, they end up not getting nominations or get very minimal and never cash in or whatever. So, like, lots of people have been throwing out things like The Wire and things like that. And there was a couple of other shows I've heard people talk about too, but it seems like that's like the plan is it's going to be something that maybe has tons of cultural impact, lots of critical acclaim, but maybe never got the awards that it probably should have gotten in hindsight. So, like, look at something like Better Call Saul. Better Call Saul, they did get some nominations. They never won a single Emmy for that show, even though, you know, they've gotten nothing but critical acclaim across the board. So those are some good examples. So I think that's an interesting thing to recognize. So it'll be interesting to see how they apply it.
I mean, are they gonna, like, go, yeah, this show ran from 1972 to 1977, and people were like, what are you talking about? You know what I mean? Yeah. Is it only for shows that are still on the air now? I mean, what? It's almost like this is the Lifetime Achievement Award for TV shows. I don't know. I'd have to read about it. I didn't see that. So
I think so.
My first thought is ugh.
So I see, and I look at it as like you just said, Lifetime Achievement Award for a TV show that, like I said, maybe it just never got a lot of awards, even though it was, like, consistently considered a great television show. So this was sort of a way to say, we recognize that this was a great television show, you know, back in the day, blah, blah, blah. So.
Oh, okay. Just on that note, I would point out that last night on the Golden Globes, Rhea Seehorn won for Pluribus.
Yep.
And that was awesome because she very unfairly got screwed over every year.
Oh, yeah.
For her performance on Better Call Saul.
Oh,
so
God,
that
yeah.
was really exciting to see her win, and she was really great.
Yeah.
So
I completely agree, and I like when that happens, when someone maybe got passed over there and then they got recognized someplace else. So that's great. Mm-hmm. All right, though. So that's probably going to wrap it up for us this week, guys. We look forward to chatting with you next week to talk about episode 5. So we look forward to chatting with you then. But until then, as always, I'm Diana.
And I'm Steve.
And don't forget to always aim for the head.
'Cause those body shots, yeah, they just don't work.
To send us an email, write us at aimfortheheadpodcast@gmail.com. And our Twitter handle is @AFTH Podcast. Pictures and video are always welcome at our Instagram account, Aim for the Head Podcast, all one word. But the best way to keep in touch with us is to just like our Facebook page to get all of our updates in your feed.
Being here reminds me, like, in an actual, like, business sense.
What soup is tonight?
Yeah, she's gonna want to know what soup's tonight, obviously.
Join us this week on What Soup Is It Tonight?